walk. Ali set the pace, Mystic brings a spark. Steve in the cut, now the whole block start. Cold on the edge till we hit. I don't call that name and we break it down, 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 down. GameTime Grind. GameTime Grind. Ali, Mystic, Steve, all in line. GameTime Grind. GameTime Grind. Bring the raw back. We on tonight.
And everybody, welcome to a brand new episode of the Game Time Grind. I am your host, Ali the Persian. And yes, this is an Ohio State podcast. No, I'm just joking. It's not. I'll bring up the boys. What is up, Steve? What is up, Mystic? I thought I would be funny since we're talking about my Buckeyes. How's everybody doing tonight?
No, we were the ones that were supposed to be funny. You know, he's over here stealing all the jokes, everyone. I don't like this. You're going to have to bully up on him in the comments or something today. Oh.
Don't tempt him, Mystic. Don't tempt him. I already get it enough, even when I'm not live. I cannot tell you what happens in my DMs. I cannot.
Hey, well, we don't want to talk about DMs, but we don't need to hear about them DMs, my friend. No, I'm just kidding. I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Happy to be here. How's Steve and yourself doing?
Listen, there's a reason that the 4thand10U logo is the Ohio State colors. This is the home of the OHIO South.
OHIO South. I love it. I'll take OHIO anywhere, to be honest. But 100%, that is not true. The colors are not that. We decided to do some research, and that was actually the best color fit based on our research, just to be fair. But 100%, everybody hit the like button. Subscribe if you're brand new. Today, we're talking about the Gauntlet. What is that? The Gauntlet is what Ohio State needs to go through, right, to actually make or break their season. And we'll be talking about the top 5 games tonight. And it's going to be really interesting. We're going to break down Ohio State, summarize them up, and then we're going to give you the top 5 games and why they're important and what could happen. We'll give you our projections. So to start off, everybody hit the like button, subscribe if you're brand new, turn on the notification bell. I see Jimmy Satterfield in here, Joe Rist already up in here. Bro, you got Michael K in here, Mystic, and then you gave him license to do that. You know what he's going to do. You know what's funnier than my jokes, though? You know what's funnier than my jokes? Those Buffalo Bills uniforms. Did you guys see that?
Nah.
Can shit, that's actually funnier. Everybody hit the like button. Who else we got in here? Looks like Joe Riz.
The fact that they're playing in a toilet or that they're wearing Pepsi Cola jerseys.
What is up? Joe Riz says he has Ohio State losing all 5. Yeah, it ain't gonna happen. We're gonna lose. Listen, this could be a season where you see Ohio State lose 2, maybe even 3 games, possibly. It's very possible, but I'm going to show you a different side that I think it might be more on the positive trend. Man, there's this other guy in here, Mystic. He always shows up every episode. Some guy named Dolphin Knight. Why can't he be Dolphin Day instead, like Ryan Day? Just going to say.
Because them damn Dolphins are so fucking weak. I have to defend them because nobody else will. I have to be their knight.
Oh, so you're the silver knight in shine, or what's it? What knight in shining armor or whatever?
The knight in shining armor. I will save the Dolphins one day.
Yeah, I get you. It's all good. It's all good. Everybody hit the like button. We got a lot to talk about. Let's get into some of the crazy news that's happened over the weekend. Did you guys see that the general manager of the University of North Carolina football team has been put on administrative leave, by the way? Did you guys see that? As of July 28th, the University of North Carolina has not publicly disclosed the specific reason that football general manager Michael Lombardi was placed on paid administrative leave. What we do know is that UNC announced that Lombardi has been placed on paid administrative leave effective immediately. Multiple outlets are reporting that the leave is connected to an ongoing human resource investigation involving a complaint. But the nature of the complaint, we don't know. This could be anything. He could have farted and it smelled really bad and someone got offended. That's as far as we know, right? We don't really know what the reason behind it was. I was trying to be funny there. Neither UNC nor Lombardi
got that man out the building.
What'd you say, Steve?
I said Belichick got that man out the building. That's what happened.
Maybe, but they've been kind of connected over the years, just to point that out. Neither UNC nor Lombardi has, publicly detailed who filed the complaints, whether it involves another employee, whether it's concerns regarding recruiting, NCAA compliance, let alone, who knows, maybe it's another ongoing workplace relationship scandal that we've seen over the last couple months with other teams, aka Michigan State and Michigan. Just to point that out, with these inappropriate relationships that happened to Ohio State recently, but it wasn't a scandal. I forget who it was, the president or somebody of the university, something to that effect, came out and said that I had this relationship. He came out clean with it right off the get-go and stepped down. So there was a little bit of difference than what was going on at other schools, just so you know. What is paid administrative leave? So people that are asking that, being placed on paid administrative leave is not a finding of wrongdoing. Basically, it's where teams will. Basically, it's where teams will. What's the word I'm looking for? They will essentially pay you, right, to be off while this investigation is completed. Does that sound about right, Mystic? That's kind of what it is.
I was just going to say, just to make it easy for everybody, I mean, this can go in any type of situation. This could happen at your everyday workplace. And they literally just say, hey, you're going to get your paycheck, cool, but you're under investigation potentially for this. We'll let you know what we're going to figure out, and we'll go from there. So this is kind of preliminary stuff with it.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. We don't know what it's going on. We don't know if it has anything to do with the football program. It could be anything, right? He has been one of the architects for Bill Belichick's NFL style front office at UNC with the roster management, the transfer portal strategy, NIL scouting, and the salary cap style scholarship management that they've been holding there. So there's that going on as well. So I don't know. What do you guys think about this thing with UNC? Is it really going to affect their program? Is this a nothing burger? Like, how do you guys feel about it?
I don't know if I just want to jump off the wheel here, because I feel like there's still a lot more to come from this. Again, preliminary thoughts is it doesn't look good, but anytime that someone's put in a situation, it's always like, oh man, what did they do? Sometimes we get some things where it's like, oh, it wasn't a big deal, there was no findings, cool. But to what we have talked about on this show many times, there is so much scandal coming on these days in college football and the pros, and it's crazy. So it would not surprise me if some scandal came out. And wouldn't that be the worst thing to happen to that team right now? When we were just talking about how they had a quiet off season, they're building towards year 2 with Belichick, and then you get this. Might be that hiccup you didn't want to see.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, Steve?
I think Belichick pushed him out of the building. I wasn't kidding. I was being dead ass serious. I think
Why
Belichick pushed him out.
Why?
I think Belichick loves having all the power and doesn't want anyone in his way.
This is true. I could kind of see something like that.
But do you remember why Atlanta didn't hire him?
What was the reason? Oh, because he wanted more power control over players.
Because he didn't want to just be the head coach. He wanted to be the general manager again, like he was with New England.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see it. Very interesting news, definitely. Something to keep an eye on. We'll do an update on this in case there's more updates as we go along about what's going on in University of North Carolina. Go ahead.
That's a crazy hashtag, noob. That is crazy right now.
What? Tua better than Malik? That one?
That is crazy work right now.
That is crazy work. We'll definitely see if that's true. Everybody hit the like button. I see Steve, not Steve. I see Greg up in here. Greg says that Ohio State goes 9-3, don't make the college football playoff. I don't know, bro. I think they're too talented not to make the playoff.
If that happens, oh man.
If they don't make it, it'll be really because of something else happening. As in they lost to a team that they shouldn't have lost to, and that's how they end up 9-3. We'll definitely talk more about that.
Talk about that. Don't worry.
He also says, interesting, since we talked about Alabama recently, he also says that Alabama goes 6-6 and DeBoer fired midway through the season.
That's a hot take. Holy smokes.
Yeah, that is definitely a massive thing to really say. Here's something I'll say. In regards to firing a coach mid-season, there's some talks about that being in that bill that they're trying to pass with Save College Sports. They're trying to get it where they feel like you shouldn't fire coaches. Like they want to give coaches protection from being fired midway through the season. So I think there should be a way that you can fire coaches, but I also think that they shouldn't just be fired midway through the season just because somebody became available. You know what I mean? Like I think you should finish the season with them. Like, how do you guys feel about that? Should teams have the right to fire their coach whenever they want? Like, how do you guys feel?
I mean, yeah.
What do you think, Mystic?
I mean, I feel like that would just create so much issue. It's up to the organization to decide, do we really need this guy in here a whole season? Do we, are we to the point midway through we're done? I think that's just with any head coaching thing. I feel like sometimes people are okay with just letting them go through the season, then getting their new guy at the end of the season, so they don't have to do the whole interim thing and then deal with the possibility of having to interview that interim and then the interim not getting the head coach and then the fans are pissed and just a lot of other controversy you create, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you create controversy, but that doesn't mean if you're trash, then you need to be fired. Like, it's the same thing with players.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think that if there's something that's detrimental to the team, maybe to the image of the school, maybe it's one of these illegal scandals that we see all the time, you should have the right to fire coaches, right? But let's say the team's having a bad year, they go 6-6. Is that grounds for being fired midway through the season? I'll take that as a no. You guys both kept quiet.
Sorry, my wife was talking to me. I apologize.
So do you have any thoughts on that? Like if someone gets fired because of performance being bad?
Yeah, I mean, they should be, though. Again, if you're not giving a satisfactory job, you need to be fired. That's coaches, that's players. To be honest, that's front office people. Like, everybody needs to be held to a standard on any team. I always hated the politics side of sports where these guys get to keep their jobs because, they slept with the right person.
Look, for me, the issue that I have with like firing people, like especially when it comes to head coaches and stuff, the one part of it that I don't like is how you can get fired and somehow you walk away with a settlement where you're still getting like 90% of your contract still when it comes to money wise. You know what I mean? There's been coaches in sports history, not just college football, but we'll say soccer. Like my favorite soccer, English Premier Soccer team, for example, was a couple years back. They fired their coach. I want to say we're still paying that coach, even though we fired him like 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing that I don't like about how like you still have to pay a portion of it. I can understand you give him a settlement to leave, but why does it have to be such an absorbent amount? You know what? You know what I'm asking?
I mean, that's how it is with players in the NFL. That's what dead
Yeah.
money is.
I get you what you're saying, but when you talk about dead money, right? It's not even if you. Okay, I can kind of see what you mean. It depends on your contract, especially with Tua. I mean, even dead money, I have an issue with. I'll agree with you that you're right, but I have an issue with that itself. I
But
think
that's
that
also a protection for the coaches and players, because otherwise teams can just fire you for any reason. You could be a good coach, but you're making so much money that the team doesn't
yeah,
want to pay you. They can just fire you and then you have nothing.
this is true. I guess that's why they call it a contract because it's not just a one-sided agreement, of hire. It's a two-sided agreement. They've negotiated the terms. I get what you're saying, right? So I see the point. I just don't like it. I don't like seeing like you've fired a coach and now you have to pay him $30 million. It doesn't add up to me. That's just my thoughts, Steve. I don't know.
You know,
Go ahead.
my thoughts on this thing is like a lot of that comes down to people just needing to be better and not being so desperate when they go to make their signings. And I feel like we've seen that with athletes, not and head coaches combined through through the process of years through mini leagues. I mean, we still have. Is it Bobby Bonilla Day or whatever, how you pronounce his last name? Sorry if I chop it up. The dude he gets paid like $1.5 million a year every year, or has for like the last 20 years by the New York Mets. Like, holy mackerel, dude. Things like that. Like,
Yeah.
these people need to be better about the contracts that they're putting together and not overextending themselves. Understanding the value that you have and the standard that comes with that program that you need to set.
Yep. It's all about money. That's basically what it's come down to. It's all comes down to the money. And you know what? Like we saw today, the rich keep getting richer, right? Ohio State lands a huge deal with Chase Bank for a patch sponsorship that they're going to have for the next couple of years. And from my understanding, it's like $17 million a season. And then I want to say like Notre Dame or another school like that got a SoFi sponsorship that was like it actually was more money than the Ohio State one. And it blew up on the internet. Everyone was kind of memeing, saying that it's pretty soon the, college jerseys are going to look like F1 jerseys with all the different sponsorships. Like, how do you feel about college football wearing sponsored patches on their jersey? Like, how do you guys feel about that?
I feel like this is the same thing that we heard with the NBA and the NFL last couple years, and they're gonna have all these sponsors, and they have to put them on the jerseys and this and that. We've gotten like one or two, and they put them in the corner, and it's okay. Like, we're not talking about these European leagues and these things overseas where dudes have like literally they're wearing billboards on their jerseys. Like that's just wild.
See, when you're talking about like European soccer teams where they have that, and they have that here in the US in the MLS too. They wear a big sponsorship their jersey, but the biggest thing is the money that actually goes directly into the money that they can use for bringing in new talent. In I guess in the soccer world, it would be called the transfer window, for example.
Yep.
I'm hoping that this has a direct correlation in your NIL monies to bring people in during the transfer portal or during recruiting. That's what I'm hoping that the money goes to, not just to someone's pocket. But I don't think it's going to be too crazy. I think some people are making a little bit more big deal out of it. when it comes to having a patch on their jersey because they're just not used to it. It took me a little bit to get used to it and on the NBA jerseys. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. I think it's just more of like a sticker shock reaction. But I think once they see it, it won't be that noticeable to the point where I think people will be okay with it. That's what I think. What else? Did you guys see the comments made by the Illinois head coach? He said that the secret of life is to live in 2005.
Yeah, that had me dying.
So essentially, he took a shot at the SEC teams, basically saying that they're trying to still live in 2005 when the SEC was the top of the game, cream of the crop, right? And people have come out and said, well, that was one of the best years ever. So you're right. I could see, I definitely see that why the SEC wants to relive those days. That's why you're having these arguments, I want to say, recently about the SEC and the Big Ten and which conference is better, talking about not allowing the new Save College Sports bill or act or whatever you want to call it affect them in the business that they do. I could see why it's a concern. But the reality is this. I think that Ohio State, the Big Ten, we'll say some of these other conferences, even the ACC, they are getting better, right? And it's not all about the SEC where they run everything, right? That's just how it is. I think the SEC is still one of the top three conferences, definitely. I think the ACC has gotten better. The Big 12, I think the Big 12 is good and it remains good. The Pac-12, I don't know who the hell they are, or if they, I don't even think they exist anymore, even though I see them, see their logos sometimes. But I don't know. How do you guys feel about the SEC and all the, people are saying that they're just trying to live their glory days? Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah, everyone's trying to live their best life out here, right? Yeah, it's kind of wild, but it's also very funny.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of wild and funny, to be honest.
Name me the last time the SEC won a national championship.
This is true.
Wait.
Let them know.
Again, I have no. I said this during the last podcast. I have no dog in this fight. I'm in the American Conference. Nobody gives a fuck about USF. But the Big Ten owns college sports right now. There is no argument. You literally cannot make an argument. There is no SEC team winning national championships. And it's not even close.
Yeah,
I kind of think that's why we're hearing about it, because I think the SEC fans and the SEC legacy folks like, Saban and other coaches alike, I think they're saying stuff because they're threatened. They're threatened that their legacy won't mean anything. Listen, coach, listen, Nick Saban, if you're listening right now, you're still always going to be considered one of the greatest all-time head coaches of college football. Until someone breaks your records, you're still considered the GOAT. I don't see what's the problem with it. So what? A new conference came in. They made all the right investments. They're peaking right now. Let it be. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. Like, I get it. Like, what do you think? What were you going to say, Mystic?
No, I'm honestly, had my thoughts changed. I was talking to Noob in the chat now. Sorry, because he brought up that the SEC is the superior conference still, but the Big Ten closed the gap. Was the comment. So I was trying to respond to that.
Oh, okay. So what did Noob say? Would you tell me what did he say exactly?
The SEC is the top conference. Big Ten has closed the gap, but still falls short. Nobody else is close.
Remind me, what were the two conferences in the national championship again? Anyone?
Not the SEC.
It was Big Ten and ACC, right? How about How about the semifinals? Who were the 4 teams in the semifinals again? And
There
what
was one
conferences were they
SEC team,
from?
and it wasn't Alabama.
So it was one SEC team, was it 2 Big Ten teams and an
Actually,
ACC team?
yeah.
Man, it almost feels like 3 of the last 4 champions have come from the Big Ten. Of the final 4, 2 of them were Big Ten. And now the national champions of the last 3 years are Big Ten. Man, it almost like Big Ten is taking over college sports, and all the SEC fans are living 4 years ago.
He said that the SEC's won 4 of the last 7 championships.
Okay. All right. Well, you haven't won 3 straight. So
4 years ago. That's like saying the Dolphins are going to go to the playoffs this year because 3 years ago we went to the playoffs.
He says that most of the Big Ten is buns, though. Are they really buns? I don't really think so. If you really look at it, I mean, look at what we talked about when it comes to dynasties, right? We talked about elite recruiting, right? Elite transfer portal recruiting, elite coaching.
Let's not even do that.
We talked about national championships. We talked about conference championships. We talked about the entirety of the program, right? Ohio State, we'll say Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon specifically, even USC, all those teams have had top 5, top 10 recruiting classes for years now. For years, it's been that way. So I don't know. For me, it's this. I'm kind of over the argument because they'll never let go. We'll never let go. That's just how it is.
But this is what I don't understand. If most of the Big Ten is buns, why has 3 different teams from the Big Ten won a national championship in the last 3 years? And not 1, not 2, 3 different teams.
I will tell you why. You ready for this, Steve?
Uh-oh.
Because, and this might be the issue that the Buffalo Bills have. They take note of what the SEC does. They're good during the regular season, and when it counts in the last 3 seasons, they haven't been able to get it done, bro. That's the reality. They've been absolutely great during the season, only to be shit during when it counts. Alabama did not deserve to be in the college football playoff. I'm going to tell you that straight up. They got their ass handed to them by Georgia, and they left Texas out. I would have rather had Texas there than Alabama, to be honest. That was a mistake. And you look at the other teams, I thought they were deserving. Georgia, obviously, because they beat the crap out of Alabama in the SEC championship game. We can go on and on and on. I don't want to argue too much about it because I want to keep the show moving, but that argument debate that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And now you have people that are in higher places than you and I are at that are making comments, and that's why people are noticing, to be honest. So it is what it is. But I want to talk about a certain CC mystic, not the one that you've been talking about all day. In my opinion, the Hall of Famer Chris Carter. Okay, Chris Carter made some comments about a future. Well, he's already a Buckeye, but I'm going to tell you a future star on the Buckeye team, and it's not Jeremiah Smith, it's not Chris Henry Jr., and it's not Sayan either. It's Tavian St. Clair. And if the OG 4th and 10 fans go back to one of the first 2, maybe 3 episodes, I gave a whole breakdown of Tavian St. Clair. I even put up an article on X, you can find it somewhere, about Tavian St. Clair. In an interview, Chris Carter basically came out and compared Tavian St. Clair that he reminds him more of a Patrick Mahomes, right? Rather than a Justin Fields. So he's saying he's athletic. He's athletic, but he's more of a pocket passer like Patrick Mahomes is than the passer that Justin Fields was in college. Because you have to remember, Justin Fields in college and Justin Fields in the NFL are two different things. That's day and night. According to Carter, he looks like a version of Patrick Mahomes, really good athlete, can be dual threat, but is more of a pocket passer. Carter wasn't saying that Sinclair is Mahomes today. Instead, he was comparing him to Justin Fields. Playing style, the arm talent, the creativity, and the ability to extend plays. Essentially, the type of throwing style that Justin Fields had in college. That's a pretty big comparison when you're being compared to the arguably one of the top two quarterbacks in the NFL today. What do you guys think about that? Like, what do you guys think about, like, what does that do to a player's, like, confidence? Do you think that's something that, you know, he should be really proud of hearing that from Chris Carter? Like, what do you guys think?
It's unnecessary stress on a child. Not a child, but
Look,
a young man.
But Tavian St. Clair is a star in the making, right? He showed out during the spring game, right? Even before, before he came to be a Buckeye. In high school, he was killing it. He's probably one of the best open field passers you'll see. The guy sees the field more than 90% of the quarterbacks coming out of high school. He's already been named high school Hall of Fame class. Like, he has all these records coming out of Ohio as well. I kind of think this is really awesome that if you have that kind of comparison. But I do kind of agree. It can kind of be stressful to live up to that.
You know what that sounds like?
Go ahead.
We just lived this.
Mystic, oh my God.
Well, no, not even Tua. I wasn't even going to go there. Mm-hmm. What quarterback just finally got his first time starting, who had all the comparisons, all the expectations, and got dragged through the mud for 6 straight games? Anybody know off the top of their head?
Go ahead.
Arch Manning? Anyone?
That's true. He did have all the, but he didn't. But Tavian St. Clair hasn't had the hype. He's had the hype in recruiting because he was good, but he hasn't had the Arch Manning style hype. But I do understand your comparison there.
But that's where this leads. When you start comparing them to certain players, like you start putting these expectations on these kids that just, it's not right. Like, let the kid show who he is.
Yeah. Oh, looks like we got a donation on the TFTG side. Mr. Paul, thank you. Keep up the great work. Ali, Steve, Mystic, aka 4thand10U. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Mr. Paul. Appreciate the donation. So, why does he think St. Clair is the future star? Well, Carter made it clear he expects Julian Sayin to eventually head to the NFL. I'm kind of in the process of thinking that after this season, he'll head to the NFL as well. We'll talk more about it when we break down the Buckeyes here in a moment. Yes, he looks like the next starting quarterback. If our guy Julian Sayin decides to leave college, the Buckeyes are going to be in good hands with him. Future NFL quarterback is what he's calling it. The lines up with how many around the program project Ohio State's quarterback timeline. You look at 2026, Julian Sayin starts. That's what they say. And then they say in 2027, Tavian St. Clair likely takes over. Why is he so high on St. Clair? Well, St. Clair has elite arm talent, pocket first mentality, which is kind of, that's something you really like in a quarterback, especially a pro quarterback. Athletic ability, NFL size. He's 6'4" from what I understand. Actually, let me check that. I have to verify that's accurate because I had him listed Slightly shorter. Let me confirm that real quick. Here it is. Wow, he is 6'4". I didn't know that. 6'4", 230 pounds, according to OurLads.com. What else did he say? He has the NFL size. Just overall, the pocket movement, arm elasticity, the improvisions he makes. Overall, he thinks he's the real deal. I'm kind of excited as an Ohio State fan. I'm excited, but I also don't want to put too much on the kid to live up to, right? I want it to happen naturally. Julian Sand, we knew he was good. We knew he was 5-star talent, but we didn't expect what we got, right? We told the kid, hey, whatever you do, don't turn the ball over. Don't screw it up, right? Just play it safe. And he did that throughout the season, and he ended up being one of the highest rated QBs in college football. That's why he's a Heisman finalist, right? So, but it's really interesting that this kid is being touted as a star. I said it, over a year ago. We'll see where he leads, though. Definitely very interesting. Any final news that you guys want to bring up before we break down the Buckeyes?
I'm good. We can continue on to the Ohio State podcast portion of the show.
Damn, Mystic. Damn. Just tearing me through the mud. Go ahead, Steve. What do you got to say?
I don't got nothing. I'm just here for the part where Ohio State beats Iowa.
Oh, damn. Okay.
His internet needs to go out or something.
All right. Okay then. In that case, let me just get to my top of the notes here. What in the world? Here we go. Okay. So, Ohio State enters the 2026 season as a legitimate college football playoff and national championship contender. Because of that, everybody hit the like button. Subscribe if you're brand new. Turn on the notification bell.
This guy.
Level Noob says Ducks by 10. Maybe. And we'll get into that. We'll definitely break that down. But this is not simply a continuation of the previous year's team, right? Or even the national championship team, to be honest. The Buckeyes return two of the most productive offensive players in the country, both Julian Sand, Jeremiah Smith, the only number 4 that matters, while replacing substantial NFL transfer portal losses, particularly on the defense. That's where you're going to see their biggest losses. The central question is whether Ohio State's rebuilt defense and offensive line can develop quickly enough to support what should be one of college football's most dangerous passing attacks. Ryan Day has surrounded the roster with NFL-heavy coaching staff. Former NFL head coach Arthur Smith takes over as the offensive coordinator, while Matt Patricia returns as the defensive coordinator, right? Both former NFL head coaches. Ohio State's official staff also includes Keenan Bailey, Tyler Bowen, Billy Fessler, Cortez Hankton, the wide receivers coach who was also with LSU for a good portion of time. As I believe he was with Malik Neighbors and some other top-end wide receivers at LSU. Who's a hell of a coach as well. Stay tuned for that. And many others, right? You have guys like Tim Walton, even James Laurinaitis, the linebackers coach. So, and Larry Johnson also. So you have all this NFL, college, historically great players and athletes as head coaches and stuff. You know it's going to be good. But the Buckeyes schedule, in my opinion, is what I call a contender schedule. And it's not that it's an easy schedule like you look at Indiana's in comparison. Indiana, I want to say, has one of the easiest schedules ever. We broke that down during the Indiana show. I think there's one game that could be a loss for them, and that's against Ohio State. I want to say Ohio State's like the hardest person on their entire schedule. Am I correct about that? Am I wrong about Indiana? Please check that, because I think that's like the hardest team that they have to play. They don't play Oregon. They don't play. I want to say they don't play USC either. Yeah, that's the only team that I can think of that is going to be tough. But But you look at
They do play USC and they play, I guess, at Michigan and at Washington. I guess if you want to call that anything.
okay, Michigan, okay, maybe. USC, all right, that might be one, but Ohio State's the other. After that, they don't really play anyone. I want to say. But let's look at Ohio State's schedule right now. They have to travel to Texas, Iowa, Indiana, USC, and Nebraska. While they really just have Oregon and Michigan at home. Everybody else they play like Ball State, right? Those games are, even I want to say Illinois, I believe we play them at home as well. I'm not really too afraid of those games, right? There are 5 games that we're going to talk about tonight that really is going to make or break the Buckeye season, right? We'll definitely break them down when we get to it. But I wanted to just kind of go over where Ohio State is at this point, right? They have quarterback Julian Sayin, who enters the 2026 as one of the leading quarterbacks in college football. ESPN credits him with the following 2025 production per ESPN. They're over 3,600 yards passing, 32 touchdown passes, 8 interceptions, and an 88.4 QBR. Pretty impressive. Those numbers show that Sayin is already beyond the promising, young quarterback stage, to be honest. He is an established national player who should enter the season, award conversation. He was a Heisman finalist. Can he repeat it this year? That's going to be a big test. But, having the best wide receiver room in the country, to be honest, both with Jeremiah Smith and guys like Chris Henry Jr., that's pretty impressive, I would say. You also look at the wide receiver, Jeremiah Smith, the other big-time player that they have on the team, probably known as the nation's most dangerous wide receiver, to be honest, who had hella, great stats as well. I think he had like 87 receptions, over 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns. I want to say he averaged almost 14 and a half yards per reception. I want to say almost. So
14.3.
Okay, I was just taking off top of my head, Steve. I'm sorry, not to be exact, but no, but thank you. I know it was close, but it's pretty evident that they have the talent. And tonight we're going to talk a lot about that, but we're going to also talk about the 2 areas of need. We're going to talk about their offensive line and their defensive line, because that's really where the questions are at. That's where they had the major losses, and now they're going to have to compete with questions on both sides of the ball. And in the Big Ten, you survive it through the trenches. Those are the facts. Steve, Mystic, what are you guys' thoughts initially about the Ohio State program and where we are today, without really breaking it down yet, but just kind of give you your general thoughts?
So, just looking at everything as a whole, to your point, all the talent in the world on offense. Definitely kind of curious to see how Matt Patricia kind of puts his defense back together after obviously losing things in the draft and transfer and such. But I mean, easy Big Ten preseason favorite. So I mean, there should be no excuse for this team this year.
What do you think, Steve?
I just don't know what they're going to do without the generational player, Will Kazmarek. No, I'm just kidding. They, no, I mean, they're definitely a team that has high expectations, in my opinion. So we'll talk more once we get to that. They have a lot of talent, and I would imagine as a team, they're unsatisfied with where things ended last year. So I think as a team, you're going to see them really put in the work, which we'll get into more what that is. But they got a lot of upside, and we're going to definitely go through that.
Look, I definitely agree with you, but just going back to 2025 real quick, Ohio State had arguably one of the most talented teams in college football. The problem was not that they weren't talented. They could definitely get it done, even against the bigger teams. It's just that they weren't tested enough in the season against Indiana's or the Miamis of the world, right? They didn't get a team that could literally stand toe to toe with them until that Indiana game, and it was almost like they didn't have the experience that the team needed with a lot of their star talent. Even the offensive line, like if you're a Buckeye fan, there's two sides of the fan base. There's a section of the bleachers that think that the Ohio State offensive line is a big question mark, really worried. Oh my God, what is Ohio State going to do? We don't have the offensive linemen. And then there's another side of the fan base that kind of is like in between, right? We still have talent. We have a very talented roster. We're going to break down that offensive line as well. And after watching like hours of tape, I want to say, I watched hours of tape recently. I've gotten everyone's point of views and read a lot of different articles to kind of formulate my own opinion. I kind of feel like I think it was a matter of like certain outcomes just weren't executed right. I think it was a matter of execution. When you're playing against a tougher defense, I think some of the athletes or the players just didn't know how to execute or be wary of certain looks that they may get. And I think that kind of hurt them throughout, the postseason, being the Big Ten championship game and then the loss to Miami. There are times even during the Miami game or even the Indiana game where you could see them be able to run the ball. I've argued here that our issue is that we didn't run the ball consistently and dominating enough, right? But looking back at it, it's not because we didn't have the running backs. It's actually just because of how the offensive line was executing. That's really part of the issue. So we'll definitely get into that as well. So everyone hit the like button. Let's get into this roster and kind of breaking down where we're at. So I mentioned Julian Sand. They also have Tavian St. Clair is going to be your bona fide backup. Those are the two names that you're going to really look out at the most. Both have elite arm talent, can place the ball anywhere. I'll even say with Julian Sand, he's probably one of the coolest. And when I say cool, I'm talking about he doesn't get like scared being in the pocket. Really cool. Is not really stressed out. Nothing really stresses him out. Even if the play doesn't work, he doesn't freak out. Keeps his calm. Kind of reminds me of Jalen Hurts. Kind of like that kind of mentality when he's coming on and off the field. But you have him, right? If he can be anywhere close to being as effective as he was in year one, I think you're going to have a really good season, especially in the receiving side if you're a skill player. Then you look at the running game, right? You have guys like Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson is a legitimate explosive superstar on this team. He has the acceleration to produce chunk plays. He may be the most dangerous home run hitter on the roster. His development in pass protection and route recognition will determine whether he can become a complete starter. I think he's a complete starter now, but that's just my bias, to be honest. But if you watch the way he hits the holes, he doesn't actually like kind of guess, like takes too much time to guess where he wants to go or be wishy-washy with what he wants to do. He picks a hole and he just hits it. He hits it real hard and he sticks with it. And a lot of times throughout the season, it was breaking him 10, 15 yards, even a home run. We saw it happen. You have other guys on the team like Isaiah West or even Anthony Rogers is another name to kind of keep an eye on. Anthony Rogers adds speed, open field ability. But there's a name on here, future star on this team. He's going to probably be a star this season, to be honest, because I think he's one of those freshmen that could break out if he gets the right amount of touches. Freshman athlete, Legend Bay, could be deployed as a hybrid. I guess you'd call him like a scat back. Is that what you call him, Steve?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like what people thought of like Darren Sproles.
Yeah, but Legend Bay has an interesting background. He's actually more of he was in high school, he was a mobile quarterback. that they could just give him the ball and he would just run and take it all the way to the end zone, right? That's a lot of the highlights I saw of him. So I do expect him to play like a wildcat option type of running back or scat back, that I think they can just direct snap to him and watch him run to the bleachers. I think that's what you may see. So my question is, are you going to see the next step of Bo Jackson in the running back room? Are we going to see the breakout of a star in the making with Legend Bay? What are your thoughts on the running back room for the Buckeyes?
Go ahead, Mystic.
Yeah, okay. We're playing mute here. You know, to your point, I mean, you kind of said it right there the way you asked the question. One or two of those things is going to happen. Either Bo Jackson's going to continue to be the guy, and he's going to ascend, and he's going to become, that next, top tier running back you want to see, or he's going to miss the opportunity, and Legend Bay is going to understand that, and he is going to jump on the scene and take over that role. Like that's it. There. I don't think there'll be no in between.
I don't think he can take it over from Bo Jackson. I'm sorry, it's too soon. Bo Jackson he's that good. He's almost the total package, to be honest. I do expect you guys to see, even if you watch his tape from last year to this year, I do expect a next step in his career path, growth. To be honest,
absolutely, but you never know. Injuries happen, and I'm not saying totally take it away in the sense of the dude will never be seen again, but we could see it go from like a 80-20 to maybe a 50-50, maybe a 60-40. Like I could see them saying, "Oh, hey, look at this kid over here making some plays. Like we got to get him the ball." If that happens, obviously, I understand who Bo Jackson is. I'm here to play devil's advocate for you.
I definitely hear you. What are you saying, Steve?
I think that Bo Jackson has to play a lot better than he did last year to keep Legend Bay from taking that spot, or even Jacoby Jackson, right? Like he's got some burners to him too. I mean, it wasn't so much last year, but the 2 years ago, like there's a chance, right? We'll see. I think sometimes people look at size and they underestimate what a player can be. Don't sleep on those guys that you think are just scat backs. If you want proof of that, his name's Devon Achane. He was 5'8" and 200 and nothing pounds. And everybody said he was he was 188 pounds. And people said he was way too small to be a 3-down back. And he did nothing but prove at Texas A&M that he was that dude.
I definitely hear you on that, but I want to go back to what you said about Bo Jackson, that he needs to play better. 179 attempts, over 1,090 yards, and average 6.1 yards a carry and 6 touchdowns. That's not good for you as a rookie. That's as a rookie, just onto the field for the first time, over 1,000 yards.
Yeah, because it didn't show up in the big moments.
Okay, so you're saying that when it counted in the clutch, it didn't show up. Okay.
Well, yeah, because you can put stats up all day, and that's nice. But I need, if you're going to be that guy and you're going to keep that position, you need to show up when it matters most. You and I have talked about this. All three of us have talked about this as a major problem in that game against Indiana was Ohio State's problem with being able to run the ball consistently.
Nah, this is true, but part of it also could be play calling. Go back to the Hurricane game, right? Against Miami. He only had 11 attempts at 55 yards and a touchdown. So they only gave him 11 attempts. He averaged at least 5 yards a carry. That's not bad at all. You know what I'm saying? You look at games like the Michigan game. That one mattered. They gave him 22 attempts, twice the amount of attempts. He averaged 5.3 yards and 117 yards total. right? He also had 4 catches at 49 yards. So for me, part of it kind of looks like I feel like Bo Jackson wasn't utilized appropriately against Miami the way that they wanted. And because we were playing from behind, it dictated what we ended up doing offensively. So I think that is part of it too. But I do think Bo Jackson has all the talent, and I expect him to be just as good, if not better, this season. That's just my opinion.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely do think he has all the talent. That's why I said it, right? Like the stats are there. But I need it in the clutch moments, right? And we saw some of that. So it's we'll see year 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The offensive line takes its own ownership, so that's absolutely correct down here. Jock on Bucks or Jucks or Bucks or whatever his name is. Sorry, that's a really weird name. Yes, the against Indiana, the line was part of the issue, but it wasn't the whole issue. I promise. Bo needs to be better in those situations. We've seen guys with questionable offensive lines, Ollie Gordon, run for 1,700 yards with questionable guys in front of them.
This is true. I mean, look, you go back and this is Junk on Bucks actually might agree with me here. You know, you look at the last 3 games of the season, right? The last 3 games of the regular season for Ohio State, Bo Jackson had over 100 yards in all 3 of them, right? In fact, against Rutgers, I want to say he had like 110 yards and 2 touchdowns on top of it. You also look on the fact that you look at the Bo Jackson in a sense. You look at the offensive line, it was a line issue in the Indiana game. It was a line issue against Miami too. There were several times where they showed that they had the outlet and the lane, and for whatever reason, the running back actually just didn't take the lane, or it was being covered, you know, so that was the issue. I do agree. I do expect growth, but I don't think it was all on him, is what I'm trying to say, Steve.
I agree.
So let's keep it moving, though. I definitely want to continue talking about Ohio State. So we talked about the running backs. Then we have the wide receiver room, right? You look at everybody in the wide receiver room. You have Jeremiah Smith, arguably the best wide receiver in all of college football. You have Chris Henry Jr. Freshman Chris Henry Jr. is one of the most anticipated newcomers on this offense, who I think in year 1 is going to be spectacular. The way I have watched his tape and the way he catches the ball and how he moves and seeing him in the spring game, I could see something almost like a like a Jeremiah Smith type of, esque type of style of season, to be honest, in his freshman season. I can kind of see that. This kid is 6'5", was ranked among the top overall prospects in top 2 receivers in the final composite rankings. Henry may not need enormous volume immediately. He may not need it, may not see it, but his size gives him Ohio State another red zone threat, right? A formation featuring Jeremiah Smith, Henry would place extraordinary stress on opposing quarterbacks, in my opinion. You look at the other guys that they have there. I want to say they have guys like Brandon Inniss, another Florida kid. Definitely check out Brandon Inniss. He's like your slot receiver. You have Devin McEwen, who I expect some big things from. You also have a kid named Brock Boyd, who is another big-time receiver that's up and coming. And also you have Guilford is another freshman kid. So you have a lot of young talent, but you have guys, speedsters, top-end wide receiver recruits that can definitely make a huge difference and are stars in the making. What do you think of the wide receiver room? Like, is it pretty much you expect the same type of turnout? Like, what do you expect?
Man, I expect this wide receiver room to absolutely carry this team, obviously, besides the run game. Obviously, they go hand in hand, right? But I think the explosiveness of what this offense can and should be centers around that wide receiver room. There's so much big play capability from receiver to receiver that it's unreal. So I absolutely expect those dudes to ball out this year and put Ohio State, in a good position to win some games.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. What do you think, Steve?
I mean, the strength and the build of Ohio State is around its wide receivers, right?
Mm-hmm.
We said it in past shows. I think they have arguably the best wide receiver, not just trio, but room as a whole, right? Getting Chris Henry Jr., having Jeremiah Smith, having kids like Brock Boyd coming in, even going to get like Kyle Parker and having Brandon Ennis still there as a solid contributor on both special teams and on the actual offense itself, right? Like,
Yeah.
And then you add on top of that, like you brought in because it goes to the receiver room, right? We just talked about the options of the running back as receivers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the team's built their offense around the ability to pass the ball and take advantage of the mobility of its quarterback to play outside the pocket. So it's absolutely its strength, and it's been its strength for years.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And going back to Chris Henry, just to kind of give you some highlights about him, he was the nation's top ranked wide receiver and number 10 overall player, according to 247 Sports. Also, you have five-star prospect who was also the number 1 player in the state of California, was the first player to give his verbal commitment in 2026 and named as the Navy All-American in Polynesian Bowl selection. Though a shortened senior season, he did catch 24 passes, 588 yards, and nearly 25 yards per catch in that season. He's also, and from people that don't know, because you may recognize the name, he is the son of the late Chris Henry Jr., who played for West Virginia and in the NFL for the Cincinnati Bengals, just to kind of give you some highlights about him. But I just wanted to mention that because that was kind of important. What else? I think an interesting thing to look at is the tight end room when it comes to Ohio State. And I'm not kidding you either, because you look at 2025, they had Max Clare, they had Will Kazmarek, and they had a couple other names. And some of those guys are gone now. Max Clare's gone, Will Kazmarek, they both went to the NFL, and I think they had some people leave on transfer portal. This year's team, you look at the tight end room, you have Nate Roberts, Hunter Welsing, Mason Williams, and Christian Bennett. Those are your tight ends, basically on the team. So you look at, for example, Hunter Welsing, I'm sorry, arrives as one of Ohio State's most important portal additions. His experience and his receiving ability also allows him to compete for an immediate starting role. You look at Mason Williams, transferred to from Ohio University, provides another experienced inline option. His size makes him a candidate for blocking duties. That's like your Will Kazmarek style of type of tight end that they're bringing in. So it'll be very interesting. I do want to see more production out of the tight end group. I felt like even for Max Clare and the capability that he had, even though he got drafted pretty well, I kind of feel like he had a lot more in the tank to give. And I don't think they utilized him appropriately for his abilities, just my opinion. So I'm hoping to see what Arthur Smith does. Is he going to use a lot more tight ends? Are we going to see a lot more of the tight end group involved in the offense? That's what I really want to see. And don't get me wrong, they did use tight ends a lot. I just don't think they used them in the way to maximize what they could have done, to be the amount of production of what they could have gotten. Any thoughts on the tight end groups? Anything you wanted to point out, Steve?
This is the weakness of the Ohio State team.
Of the offense. Yes, of the offense.
Yeah. Well, of the offense, yeah. It might be their biggest weakness overall. well, there might be one other position group, and we'll talk in a little bit about it later. But this might be their biggest weakness, but it's not their biggest weakness in a way that I think it hinders the team. I just mean that in the sense of like I don't think you're going to get explosive plays. Their best contributing factor is the ability to block in the run game. And hopefully whoever they brought in to replace Will Kazmarek as a blocker is going to be able to add that additionally, plus be a target underneath for first downs, right? Like you need young quarterbacks need their tight ends, and I don't think you have that guy that's going to stretch the field by any sense of the imagination. It's a bunch of guys who get passes off of, little, leaks and underneath routes. So I think it's their weakness, but it's their weakness by design because their wide receiver room is so explosive. You don't need a tight end. You don't need a Brock Bowers to make my point.
I definitely understand you don't need that type of guy, but I also think that having that type of guy is beneficial. I think they do need an athletic type. Looking at a lot of these guys that they have in the room, some of the names I've just looked over, they do seem like more of your blocking style tight end. So that's, is that so bad that they're all Will Kazmarek style blocking tight ends? No, I just think that they need to know how to utilize them to be the most effective on the field. So we'll see if Arthur Smith can really get that to happen. So
that's kind of the thing, though, just to be real quick. Like, that's what I was saying. Like, it's by design that they are the way they are. Some of these guys could have decent hands, and maybe they could be seam threats, right? From an athletic perspective. But the offense doesn't drive through its tight ends. The Ohio State offense asks for the tight ends to block in the run game and then just be available underneath. So I don't know if that will change. Maybe it could put a little more emphasis, but now with Chris Henry in that room, you got to step up from Carnell Tate. So like that wide receiver room is going to put even more work in.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. So let's talk about the offensive line, because that really, to be honest, in my opinion, is one of the biggest issues, right? You look at the 2026 Buckeyes and their offensive line. They have some returning talent, right? But now it kind of looks like the starting line is going to be Ian Moore, Luke Montgomery, Carson Hintz, Austin Siriveld, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, and Philip Daniels. That's what looks like your starting offensive line. On paper, still hella talented, but they have question marks. How they performed in the last 2 games of the season really kind of put a spotlight on them. And it's kind of, for some people, it's concerning, right? I'm trying to stay positive, to be honest. I really don't think that they don't have the talent to perform. But this season, in which we're going to get into, is really going to test them. This is going to be that testing and that experience that they definitely need to peak later in the season when it counts the most, right? You have guys like Carson Hinsman, who returns as the anchor after starting multiple seasons and provides outstanding communication and protection calls. Luke Montgomery, one of the best guards that they have, is one of the most experienced interior linemen in college football and is expected to be an all Big Ten candidate as well. Austin Siriveld has developed into one of the nation's most versatile linemen after playing both guard and tackle during his Ohio State career as well. You look at guys like Ian Moore, Philip Daniels, they're going to be filling crucial roles, right? You look at, Moore, for example, he has elite upside, but he's going to face a steep learning curve, protecting quarterback Julian Sain's blind side. To give you an example, Phillip Daniels is projected to take over the right tackle position, giving Ohio State another talented but relatively inexperienced edge protector. That's kind of the question mark. Those are the issues that we have. Hella good talent, just not experienced enough. And that's what is really going to be something that we're taking a look at during the season. So they may not have all the veteran depth in 2025 championship, the 2024 national championship line, but the talent ceiling remains extremely high. The question is, can Moore, Daniels, and the rest of the offensive line create rhythm and continuity and actually develop into that championship contending offensive line? That is the question. What are you guys' thoughts on the offensive line?
So
I got
this is another. I guess I have some orders of if there are any questions about this team. I think this is also on my list of possibilities and things to look out for this year. But the fact that the entire offensive line returned, I mean, it's not really on my again, like I said, it's on the list just to see when it's going to come out. Are they going to come out and be better, or is this line just going to kind of stay the same as it was last year? If this line comes out again, being the entire line, having that chemistry, and you can take a step forward, you're going to have a pretty nasty problem, because again, that offense will be able to do exactly what you want. Stan will be comfortable. The run game will be there. Like that again, that offensive unit should just thrive.
I mean, I think they lost some guys that really kind of held it down. But there was definitely an offensive line issue towards the end of the season. I want to say it was primarily in the right guard position, I think, is in my opinion. That's where they were kind of lacking. What do you think, Steve? Like, what do you think of this offensive line? Is it going to be a big issue? What do you think?
I mean, they got proving to do. It can't be like it was last year. Sayin needs time to throw the ball. I'm actually kind of interested in the young kid Greer that y'all brought in. 6'7", 335 pounds, freshman recruit. Like
Sam Greer?
Yeah. He has Big Ten offensive linemen written all over him. So maybe he gets a little burn if that offensive line starts to struggle. I doubt it. They'll probably push him aside and let him, redshirt for the year, unless there's an injury. But he's kind of got my interest. I like big offensive linemen, and he definitely fits that bill. They just got to be better. It's got to be better.
Sam Greer was a 4-star prospect, number 2 ranked player in the state of Ohio. He also was the top-rated offensive lineman in the state of Ohio and nation's number 7 ranked tackle. He also is a talented basketball player. He averaged 13.6 points a game, 7.7 rebounds. Pretty interesting.
His strength is in the run game too. He's quick out of his stance and does a really good job of getting to the second level to create gaps for the run game. So maybe that might be the benefit. Get him out there on running downs. Maybe even set up some 6 offensive linemen, which I doubt they'll do. But hey, you never know.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. One thing that I do want to say is that I don't know how much this offense is going to change. I don't expect this offense to change very much, to be honest. I think that the offense is going to stay relatively the same. But I do expect under Arthur Smith and knowing Ryan Day and the coaching staff and what they took from last year to this year, I do expect much better execution. And you better believe they're going to coach the hell out of these players. So it's going to be very interesting how quickly they develop. And something you said real quick about Julian saying that protecting him so he doesn't have to throw the ball so quickly, right? that really wasn't an issue at all throughout the entire season until the last 2 games, because that's when they actually went up against a really high-end defense. In fact, the only defense I want to say they faced all season long last year that gave them any issues up until the Miami and Indiana game was Texas. That was the only other, test that they had. And they really didn't even have a test against with Texas because they played such a conservative game. So it's going to be really interesting. Everybody hit the like button. We're going to break down the defense, and then we're going to get into the gauntlet because I really want to talk about that. The biggest question surrounding Ohio State's 2026 defense, again, just like the offense, it's not talent. They have all the talent. Even though they lost guys like Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, Caleb McDonald, right? They lost all these guys, right? But they definitely have the talent that they brought in to replace some of these guys. It's the leadership that's really can be the issue. So who must step up, right? It starts with Jalen McLean, new defensive leader. McLean appears to be the player assuming Downs' leadership role at safety. Coaches and teammates have consistently praised his communication and command of the secondary. So that's some high hopes that I have. Peyton Pierce, he's pretty much your middle linebacker. Pierce is expected to replace Sonny Styles in the middle of the defense. While he doesn't possess Styles' rare athletic profile, coaches believe he's similar in toughness, instincts, and leadership qualities. So that's good to know. Earl Little Jr., veteran transfer. I believe he's a Florida State transfer, to be honest. He arrives as a standout season and is expected to help stabilize the secondary. Now, here's a kid that I want to see a definite move from year 1 to year 2, that I think this kid is going to be one hell of a player, even in the NFL. And that's Devin Sanchez, one of the nation's top young corners, now steps into a full-time starting role. I expect Devin Sanchez to be one of those shutdown style corners, to be honest, in his development and his road to the NFL, to be honest. This kid is really good, in my opinion. Even coming out of high school, he's really highly touted. Let me give you some real quick takes on Devin Sanchez real quick. So Devin Sanchez, where did I want to go to it? Where is it? Here it is. I'm so sorry. So Devin Sanchez, his career highlights, he had 5 total tackles at Illinois, 1 pass deflection, and 1 fumble recovery. This is all playing more of a secondary role, not as a full-time starter, just so you know that. He had 2025 OSU Scholar Athlete Award. As a freshman, he appeared in 13 games as a freshman, making 1 start, totaling 409 snaps and defensive back and on special teams. Finished the season with 15 tackles, 2 pass deflections, and a forced fumble recovery. Now, this is what makes him special. Devin was a 5-star prospect and one of the top players nationally in 2025, was rated the #1 corner and #5 overall player according to 24/7 Sports. Received an invitational to play at the 2025 Navy All-American Bowl, District 21 6A first team selection, member of the 24/7 Sports Freak List. Yes, they have a Freak List. Member of the Max Preps High School Football All-American team. As a junior, he made 57 tackles, 29 pass breakups, while also forcing 2 fumbles, intercepting 9 passes. And also, I guess like his parents also were student athletes as well. That just gives me some information about his parents. But you look at his size. Let me go to that real quick. He's 6'2", 198 pounds. You look at the way he plays, even at the spring game last year, I could see that the talent is there. He gives me, I hate to put like a comparison on him, but there are quite a few shutdown corners in the NFL that he does remind me of at times. What do you guys think about Devin Sanchez? Have you guys looked him up or seen any of the tape on him?
No, I haven't seen anything about him, but the consensus of things I'm looking up is where was the good line? Yeah, there was a really good line I found. Elite potential to be elite lockdown perimeter corner.
Lockdown.
So
That's what I was looking for.
yep,
He's going to be a lockdown kind of guy. I could see it.
it'll be interesting to see. I mean, this is where I'm at. This unit, yeah, they lost a lot of pieces, and to your point, they got to find the leadership, and that's kind of my concern. Not necessarily like, oh my goodness, it's going to make or break this team. No, I think Ohio State is going to have their moments where, like last year, we saw them start the season against Texas, such a low scoring game. Defense really did what they could to really keep everything in check, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there might be kind of maybe a flip this year for Ohio State. I think they might have a time where they give up, maybe 21 points a game here and there, things like that. But their offense is going to score 35, 40, so you're not really going to worry about it. It might be one of those early where they're growing, and then later they're tightening it down to the 14s. And, obviously we expect them to shut out these, tune-up matches, right? So we won't even talk about that. But we'll get more into what I expect them to do against these, big games in the Gauntlet. But you still have all the talent. It's not like there's not the talent there. It's just, can the talent put it together fast enough in Patricia's system to develop the way that you saw them last year?
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I mean, I didn't even bring up the two main pieces of the defense that, to be honest, I think is going to make a huge difference. Both those guys, John Walker, this Central Florida transfer, and not to mention James Smith. James Smith is going to be a huge addition to this team. James Smith is a transfer from Alabama, defensive tackle. That was a hella good pickup. Those guys are going to be your new defensive tackles. And then also a weak side linebacker to kind of keep your eye on that I'm kind of interested about is the senior transfer, Christian Allegro. He's a guy that I kind of am excited about. He went to Wisconsin last year. If you want to look up his tape, he has. I think he's going to be very interesting this year. Steve, I know you're chomping at the bit. What are your thoughts on the defense?
Well, I said this to you earlier. You lost Noah. Almost said Noah Igbenogany. Holy crap! You lost Igbenosin, right? He was one of your and Sony Styles and Caleb Downs. Those are 3 of your biggest turnover generators on the Ohio State defense last year, right? Including one of the leaders. Now, you do retain Jermaine Matthews, who was one of your better turnover machines. He caused 3 turnovers last year. So you at least have him. You got your new lockdown corner on the other side. So you have 2 good corners, right? And then they brought in a 5-star linebacker who caught my eye, and Sincere Johnson. I mean, technically they brought in 2 linebackers, but he was one of the big commits out of this class. So we'll see what they how they kind of morph things around. The secondary is going to be an interesting set of new players mixed in with some of the guys that were there last year, and see if they can get back to that top 3 defense that they had last year. My bigger question is less about the DB room, and it's more about the edge room. Who's gonna take up Caden Curry's spot and generate the sacks and tackles for loss that he had?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mentioned you had. There's also Bo Atkinson. That's a guy to kind of keep your eye on. He's the transfer, I believe, that came from North Carolina. It's going to be really interesting. And also, I didn't even mention Kenyatta Jackson. He's another defensive end. He's a South Florida boy. He's actually right here from South Florida. Kenyatta Jackson is a hell of a player. He was really good last year, and I think he's one of the few people that we have that's going to bring leadership, but also be still really good at his craft. It's going to be really interesting. This defense, to be honest, Great. They have a hell of talent. Are they going to be able to replace every single guy that we had last year that we lost? No, I would say no, but we don't need them to. We don't need them to. What I need this defense to do, I don't even need this defense to be a top 4 talent, right? What I need this defense to do is really just survive, helps us survive this gauntlet of a season. What does that look like? Slow down the defense, right? Contain the run game, keep everyone in front of you. That's what I want. Do I need this defense to be a complete shutdown of everything? No, but in the clutch moments, I do want to see something, come out of, off the field and feel like they really definitely made a play. But do I expect it to be what it was the last 2 years at defense? No, I don't. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think the key is going to come down to that defensive line and the offensive line. I think that's really where this differences on this team is going to be made. So what does that lead us to? That leads us to talk about what we expect from this season. We already know this team has the elite recruiting, the transfer portal, and everything. We bring in 5-star talent. We already have Jet Harrison already committed to the Buckeyes. I want to say there's another wide receiver, 5-star talent wide receiver that's already committed. People have questioned at running back. What are we going to do at running back? Well, we have guys coming down the pipeline. In fact, at running back, Gabriel David George, or I'm sorry, Gabriel. Oh my God, I can't even think of his name. David Gabriel Georges. I'm so sorry. Had a moment. Tennessee recruit. They committed to Tennessee. Yeah, we lost out on him, but is everything all done? No. We have tons more talent coming in. In 2028, we have a running back coming. He wasn't even going to get to play till 2027. When you think about it. So I'm not too worried about that. So we know they have all of that. So what's going to make the difference this season? This regular season is going to be nuts. So let's get into it. So Ohio State, right? When you look at their season that they have ahead, let me bring up I hate when I'm at a certain point in my notes and then it drops me down to the bottom. So looking at the roster, we know they have the roster. So Ohio State must play, I mentioned before, Texas, Iowa, Indiana, USC, Nebraska away, while they play Oregon and Michigan at home at the Horseshoe, right? The Buckeyes only open week comes on October 24th, directly between the road games at Indiana and USC. That's the only bye week that they have. So what are the top 5 games? I'm going to go ahead and tell you, we're going to start at number 5. Number 5 starts at USC, Saturday, October 31st, right? Ohio State's official schedule confirmed that the Buckeyes will visit USC on Halloween. USC's official schedule and Game Center is also lists October 31st matchup as at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum at USC. So that's going to be there. Why is this game important? Well, USC is 5th on the list because it combines 4 difficult elements. A cross-country trip, right? That can be difficult. A hostile and historic road venue. The Coliseum can be hostile. An opponent capable of producing explosive offense. We mentioned USC earlier, about a month or 2 ago. We broke them down. And we said that they have hella good offensive talent and a hell of a good quarterback and a coach to go with it. Lincoln Riley is no joke, right? Also, however, the Buckeyes are going to be coming off of a physical October stretch that includes road games at Iowa, Indiana. After USC, Ohio State immediately returns home to play Oregon as well. So this game is going to be really important for them. That means USC game cannot be viewed as in isolation. It begins a 2-game sequence against high-end opponents with significantly different styles. USC is likely to test Ohio State horizontally and vertically. That's the style of offense they have. The Trojans traditionally want to create space, isolate defensive backs, and force linebackers to make a difficult open field decision. Ohio State's rebuilt linebacker and safety group will therefore be under pressure to communicate correctly before the snap and tackle cleanly. What do you guys think about this USC game? This is number 5 on my list of the top 5 games that are going to make or break the season.
Well, I'm gonna say it's gonna be one of the tougher games because it's at USC. Late in the season, I mean, again, this is gonna be with 5 games to go. Ohio State should be definitely nice and well tuned by then. It's really hard for me to say one way or another how I think this game is going to go because of the game right before that, and that could be pretty all telling how they show up to this next game, either super pissed off or maybe really beat up, who knows. But when it comes to a talent perspective, obviously Ohio State's Ohio State, right? USC, we talk about these things. It's going to be which quarterback doesn't make that mistake. If I'm being honest, it's going to come down to which quarterback doesn't make that big mistake. I think both of these teams are very, very going to be very well coached this year, and both of these quarterbacks are going to want that game. If Sand can go into USC and take that from Maava, though, I think that'll more than propel him into that top end of that Heisman race again. I think he can absolutely have that Heisman season too.
I can see that. What do you think, Steve?
We talked about USC being one of those teams that could be a lot better this year with the talent that they collected on that. I think it's definitely a concerning game if Ohio State's not on their P's and Q's with the ability to run the ball. That offense will get at putting points up.
Look, for me, there's a path to victory for the Buckeyes. It starts by running a run directly at USC's defensive front, continue to run, use long drives to limit the Trojans' offensive possessions, force USC to execute, avoid turnovers, and make USC defend Smith from multiple alignments, right? I think that's how you do it. You don't allow explosive touchdowns, right? You keep everybody in front of you. If you don't run the ball, you're not going to win. I mentioned you need to find a way to effectively run consistently. And the defense repeatedly misses tackles. That's what I think is going to end up happening if they were to lose. But I think they win this game. I think they have the offensive advantage. They have Jeremiah Smith. They have Julian Sand, quarterback that can lead them. They have Chris Henry. They have Bo Jackson, tight end routes behind aggressive linebackers. They have the route tree. Do they have the tight ends? That's kind of questionable. But I think they have everything else going for them on the offensive side of the ball. We're talking about Smith, who has over 2,558 career receiving yards and 27 touchdowns, right? If they play Smith at a single quarterback, I'm going to tell you Smith's going to eat that up all day, and Julian Sand's going to be able to give him the ball, right? So it's going to be really interesting what happens in this game. But just to kind of give you my early projection, I think it's going to be hard fought, but I think Ohio State walks away with the win. That's what I think what ends up happening. Any thoughts on that before we move on to the fourth biggest test on this offense or for this team?
My only nugget would be, as much as attention as they put on your star, me and names, your star receiver,
Jeremiah Smith.
As much as attention they put on Jeremiah Smith, they cannot allow Ohio State. It works in their favor, but USC's got to be careful to not put too much on him, because Chris Henry will go off, and he will make them pay for allowing all this coverage to one guy. Remember last year during we talked about it just before the Miami Ohio State game, who was going to step up when they took away Malachi Tony. And we talked about CJ Daniels. And we talked about Carnell Tate stepping up for Ohio State. Who was going to do it? Chris Henry's not Carnell Tate. He's better than him.
I do think he can be better than Carnell Tate. Yes, I agree with that.
So that's even more of a fear now for teams facing you guys. They can't just put everything on one guy. They have to watch out for two, because Chris Henry will make you pay.
I'll argue that Brandon Inniss will make you pay, but he's like one of those exo factors, right? I don't think he really got tested enough. And going in after facing like Indiana and Texas earlier in the season, in this scenario, I think he'd be tested enough to be able to perform against a USC. But I think he has the ability. Low-key, I think Brandon Inniss has the ability to make you pay. I just don't think we've seen it, to be honest. He was a 5-star receiver coming out of high school, for God's sakes. You know what I mean? And he has the speed, he has the hands. He just has to put it together. But he does a lot of things that a lot of teams don't, you don't really look at when it comes to wide receiver. He has elite blocking skill in the run game, right? He runs routes effectively. He's that guy that does a lot of your dirty work. He does special teams, kick returns, punt returns, and so on. So it'll be very interesting. Number 4 on my list for 5 games that, will make or break Ohio State's season. This one, I know Mystic is not going to like on why it's number 4, but I'm going to explain. That's Indiana. The Indiana game is the number 4 game of, top 5 games that is going to make or break the season. Why? Why is it no longer a routine game? Indiana can no longer be described as a harmless Big Ten underdog. The Hoosiers enter the 2026 following a national championship season, and current roster analysis indicates that Curt Cignetti's program has retained or replaced enough talent to remain a conference contender. We mentioned that in the Indiana breakdown. The defending champions also host Ohio State rather than traveling to Columbus, so that's going to be a big deal. They added players like Josh Hoover at quarterback to replace Mendoza, right? They have guys like Charlie Becker, and just to repeat, Charlie Becker, for the Indiana fans that felt that I didn't say Charlie Becker's name enough in that episode. I thought it was funny with some of the comments I got, so I had to make sure I said that. Charlie Becker is going to be a hella handful for corners to deal with, but I feel like Devin Sanchez and company and some of the other corners we have can definitely hold it down. The coaching battle is going to be the real big test here. Ryan Day versus Curt Cignetti. Both of them have a certain style of coaching. Both have their hands in the offense and have command of their team on a short leash, right? Arthur Smith, that's a good question. Is Arthur Smith going to be play calling, or is it going to be Ryan Day still? I kind of feel like Arthur Smith is going to be the guy, because I think Ryan Day is at his best when he doesn't have to worry about it. Just want to give you guys my take on that. So what is the big matchup? Ohio State's offensive line versus Indiana's defensive front. That's going to be the biggest question. Indiana placed multiple players on Phil Steele's preseason All-American Big Ten team. The Hoosiers had 8 preseason All-American selections in that publication, including first-team selection Carter Smith, Isaiah Jones, and 13 total preseason All-Big Ten honors. Ohio State's line, however, is not inexperienced, so that's the one thing. They're not inexperienced. They do have some experience up the middle. The Buckeyes returned 8 offensive starters from their spring listing, including Carson Hinsman, Luke Montgomery, I mentioned, Austin Silverfield, and Philip Daniels. Ohio State's spring notes credited Hinsman with 35 career starts, Silverfield with 20, and Montgomery and Daniels with 16 apiece. That experience must show up big in Bloomington, right? They got to execute. Indiana will try to muddy the pocket, create negative rushing plays, force Ohio State 3rd and longs. Those are the things that we have to kind of avoid. The problem for Indiana is the receivers, Jeremiah Smith, and I'll even argue Chris Henry Jr. Jeremiah Smith creates a problem. We're talking about a guy that you can line him up pretty virtually anywhere, put him in the slot, put him in the X, put him in the Z. Doesn't matter. He will find a way to make it happen. The Hoosiers may bracket him, rotate a safety toward his side, play zone concepts, limit vertical opportunities. But Ohio State should respond by moving Smith in the slot, using him as a decoy. You got other receivers. We mentioned it. You have a lot of talent, even behind Chris Henry Jr. And Jeremiah Smith. There's some names like Brock Boyd that I mentioned and others that I think that could really fill the role and be a guy that could show up big. The key is patience. Sayin cannot force the ball towards Smith simply because Indiana is daring him to. We can't allow them to do that. Something they did against us at the Ohio State game. They disguised their defense very well. Mystic, you can talk about this if you want, but Cignetti has this way of, and his coaching staff have a way of disguising their coverages, either their zone or their man coverages, to a point that it becomes very confusing. And I think that kind of surprised Ohio State and Julian Sayin kind of specifically. So how can Ohio State win this game? Well, by avoiding emotional trap and playing a disciplined game, right? Protect the football, number one. Keep the Hoosiers behind the required down and distance. Prevent Indiana from controlling the game through RPOs. That's a big thing. And use the defensive depth to wear down Indiana down late in the game, right? That's kind of like the path to victory for me. Play smart. Sometimes you even have to play conservative. I kind of look at this game almost like the Texas game last year when Ryan Day and Julian Sayin played very conservative for the entire game to win it. I could kind of see them doing that in the sense with Kurt Cignetti and company. What do you think, Mystic? I know you're really high on Indiana. You have this as a loss or trap game for Ohio State. Tell me what you think about it.
Well, first of all, for all the fans out there, this is Ali's list. He already has the order messed up for me, but that's okay.
This is my list. You're right.
Honestly, yeah, I have this. If Indiana was going to Ohio State, I would probably say that Ohio State has a chance to win by double digits, based on what I'm seeing this team's going to look like. Traveling to Indiana. Again, at what point in time do we really have to give this man credit and say they are the defending national champion? No matter how much talent you lost, people lose talent every year in college. Being a defending national champion school, you're a defending national champion school, and you should be given the respect as such. Mm-hmm. So going into defending national champions' house, Kurt Cignetti, I guarantee you, Kurt Cignetti has this game circled on the calendar, because he understands the magnitude of this game. I think there's a really good possibility winner of this game wins the Big Ten.
Fair enough. What do you think, Steve?
Oh, I think he definitely has this game circled. I think Ryan Day has this game circled. However, much like I just talked about, last time they didn't have Carnell Tate stepping up for them. This time they have another receiver who I think will step up big time in those big moments. Because there were times where guys just weren't open. Right?
I mean, look at it this way. I just want to point this out to Mystic, right? When Ohio State lost to Indiana in the Big Ten championship game, we didn't get blown out. We didn't get our socks blown off, right? We didn't get killed. 2 field goal misses really dictated that game. If Ohio State scored those 2 field goals, right, like they should have, are we having the same conversation right now? No, we're not. Because
but that's why you play the game. So they did miss those 2 field goals, and that's why we are having this conversation.
I understand. I understand what you're saying, Mystic, right? They did miss. but it wasn't like they didn't compete, right?
And I don't know where this whole blowout thing comes from. I don't think anything I said anywhere was anybody blowing anybody out. I said they're going to be very good. It's a very good game, actually, is what I said. So I said if anybody's blowing anybody out, it was Ohio State being in Ohio State.
Okay, I definitely understand that. The reason I guess I'm bringing it up is because, you know, I see a lot of people kind of saying like, oh, it's Indiana, you know, they're going to blow, you know, they're going to win this game. Everybody kind of has Indiana beating us. A lot of the people that I talk to, right, that are not Ohio State fans, obviously. But I want to say is that I think this is a different team. I think offensively, you know, Steve makes a great point. They definitely do have more offensive weapons in the sense that now you're bringing in a guy like Chris Henry Jr., that, you know, no offense to Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate is a great receiver. He's going to be a great NFL receiver. But I think with a guy like Chris Henry Jr. and the abilities that he has and the talent he brings, it's almost like having two Jeremiah Smiths on the field. I'm not saying he's Jeremiah Smith. I'm just saying that he has that high elite receiver type of talent is what I'm trying to say. But also you look at the Indiana team, right? They had a lot of turnover at receiver, losing Omari Cooper and other names, right? You look at their running backs, Black and Hemby, who are no longer there. They're in the NFL now, right? You got to replace all of that at the same time. Now, they said they've replaced a lot of people, both in the transfer portal, but I would argue that their recruiting is not quite where Ohio State's recruiting is, or other, you know, teams in the country where it's at this point, but it's definitely in progress. I just think that now you're getting an Ohio State that has already played Texas, that has already played halfway through the season. And by that point, all these players that we mentioned, Chris Henry, right, Brandon Innes, Jeremiah Smith, Julian Sayin, the offensive line, the defensive line will already be ready and tested and running all cylinders. I think this is a game that Ohio State can win. That's what I'm saying, Mystic.
Absolutely. Nothing I said was like that either of these teams are better than, you know, drastically better than the other. Like I truly think that both teams can win. Again, it came down to your point, two mistakes and why Indiana won. Kurt Cignetti is going to have this Indiana team in this game. I don't care how you guys spin it. It doesn't matter. He's already showed you that he can take less talent and go up against superior talent and have his team in games. He's going to have this team in the game. Which team doesn't make the mistakes again? It was two mistakes by Ohio State that gave a Big Ten championship. This could be the same thing. Does Indiana give up a mistake or two and gives Ohio State this win that propels them to the Big Ten championship? I think these are the two teams. As much as we talk about Oregon and everything else, when it comes to head coaches, I think Cignetti and Day are just so in a class of their own, just how they are in the Big Ten.
Look, we've even had the conversation right here on 4th and 10. We've talked about the top 5 coaches in all of college football, and the top 3 include both Ryan Day and Kurt Cignetti,
Exactly.
right? And Kirby Smart is the other name. Doesn't matter what order you put it. You could have Kurt Cignetti at the top, Ryan Day at number 2, and Kirby, or vice versa, or doesn't matter. But those are the top 3 names, no matter which way you look at it. This game will be hella good. It's going to be hella good, not just at the player level, but at the coaching level. I agree with it. I just think that offensively, right, I think that they're coming in a little bit of a different animal than they did last season. Yes, there's questions along the trenches, but I think one thing that Ohio State does is that they definitely know how to learn from their mistakes, and they try not to. You don't really see them do the same thing that they did the previous season, right? So it'll be very interesting. I think it's going to be a close game. You have it as an Ohio State loss. Am I correct? That's where you have it right now?
Yes, I'm going to say a 1-possession loss.
1-possession loss. Okay. I'm going to say that it's a 1-possession win for Ohio State. I think they have enough to get it over the line. That's what I say. So fair enough. Number 3 game on this list, right? Number 3, Oregon at Ohio State. Now, why this could be decide the Big Ten, also just like the conversation with Indiana, this could function as a unofficial Big Ten championship elimination game in a sense, because I think if Ohio State somehow comes away, let's say they beat both Indiana and USC coming up to this game, and Oregon's in the same boat. I think if Ohio State loses here, this could decide one of the contenders for the Big Ten championship, to be honest. Ohio State and Oregon are among the few conference programs capable of matching each other in recruiting, quarterback play, receiver talent, athleticism, and line of scrimmage depth. A victory could become extremely important in conference tiebreakers and college football playoff seeding. The timing is, especially significant. Ohio State must fly home from Los Angeles and immediately prepare for Oregon. So they're going to have a long, flight back home. And I don't know if anybody knows, but flying back from California is like hella long. Getting there was took forever. Coming back, the way that the hours change is just so weird to me. I don't know if you ever noticed that coming down here, Mystic, to be honest, but that's just my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
How the hours change is just weird. But it's Oregon, meanwhile, will understand that this has to be an opportunity to challenge Ohio State. And you better believe they're going to come in with Dan Lanning's offense very ready to go. They want to make a statement at the Horseshoe, right? But that's not going to be so easy for Oregon. But I think that this game is kind of ramping up to be a wild one. So you have Julian Sayin versus Dante Moore. In a sense, it's a battle for NFL draft position or Heisman implications, to be honest. This game features two of the most talented quarterbacks in the country. Sayin enters 2026 as a preseason All-American candidate and the established leader of Ohio State's offense. He was the Big Ten Freshman of the Year in 2025 and entered the postseason as a finalist or candidate for multiple National Quarterback and Player of the Year awards. Dante Moore returned to Oregon after a breakout season in which he reportedly credits him, or reports credit him with approximately 3,565 yards passing, over 30 touchdowns. He was also regarded as a leading future NFL draft prospect. Both quarterbacks can make the NFL throws. The difference may be which offensive line performs better, right? Ohio State's offensive tackles versus Oregon's. Oregon's has assembled its program to win national championships, not to simply compete for conference relevance. The Ducks want to pressure a quarterback without sacrificing coverage. If Oregon can rush for and keep two defenders involved in Jeremiah Smith, and the Ducks will have the perfect defense kind of set up, to be honest. The Buckeyes, as I mentioned before, they have a somewhat experienced line, especially in the middle. But they have to do some things that are important. They need to keep the interior pocket firm, avoid obvious passing downs, pick up pressure from different angles, and communicate. That's the keys to this game. The biggest question is, can the Ohio State defense, especially up front, can they handle the explosiveness that Oregon has? It's not just Oregon's receivers or running backs. Dante Moore can take off running at any point as well. So that's something to kind of think about. So for me, I have this game as a potential loss for Ohio State. I think it'll be a good game, but after road games at both USC and Indiana, I think it's going to be a little bit too much for them. And this is where I have Ohio State losing here against Oregon. What do you guys think about the Oregon game? Any thoughts about it?
No, okay. So, hot take. I think Ohio State has a chance to play into, and again, this kind of goes with your take more than my take, right? But I think Ohio State has a chance to play in 2 undefeated games. If it goes, Ohio State beats Indiana, right? I think that's the first one. I think Ohio State, Indiana is the first undefeated we see. And then I think if they, again, they win that game, they move on. I think they take care of USC, right? And then here we go, Oregon. I think Oregon finds a way to handle their early matchup that matters, which is the USC game. I think they handle that. And I think we see Oregon, Ohio State undefeated, first undefeated, which is going to be very interesting. But again, Oregon going to USC is different than Oregon going to Ohio State. I think Oregon going to Ohio State, they're gonna have such a hard time. They're a great team, right? They're gonna put up points. They're gonna compete. But I really think that Ohio State makes this game look easy. If I'm being honest with you, I think that the talent. I think they're gonna be so comfortable by this time in the season that team coming in, they're going to execute, and it's going to be, you almost have to play perfect football with this game, in my opinion. Like, they're just going to execute, hit what they need, get their points, get in and out, and I think Dante Moore is going to struggle to do that on the road in that environment.
Very interesting. What do you think? Steve?
I think this game comes down to, is Oregon as real as it looked last year? Does Dante Moore continue to get better than he was last year? Because he's been on a upward tick. I think this team might be a preview on which one of these two make it into the playoffs, to be honest.
I have a hot take that I think there's a way that Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon make the playoffs.
I don't think that's a hot take. I think they all three made it last year. So, but I think this could be one of those games, because it's later, that it could affect one of them getting in.
Yeah, it's very very possible. That is definitely possible. But I will say this though, Oregon has always had Ohio State's number, in my opinion. But even at the Horseshoe, they've had our number. But when it mattered the most, when it comes to, you look at the postseason, right? First college football playoff, Oregon had that massive win. I forget who it was they played. We played Alabama. We won. And I think Oregon knocked the socks off of somebody. And they were interviewing Urban Meyer. And Urban Meyer said, "How many did they win by? Holy crap, I need to go get my team ready." I think they won by like over 20 points. And then when we played Oregon in the national championship game, we knocked the socks off of Oregon, right? The championship season, we beat Tennessee, knocked the socks off of them. We walked into the Rose Bowl thinking we're going to have this, awesome, really close matchup, grueling game. And Ohio State almost ran away with the whole thing, knocking the socks off of Oregon again. We saw Oregon lose this past college football playoff. They have this issue that I don't know if it's mindset. In the playoffs, they don't show up. But I do believe, if you go look at the records, they win a lot during the regular season. They win a lot. And I think they're going to win this game following that path, especially with having to play back-to-back road games, against Indiana, USC, and then to Oregon. It is going to be really tough on Ohio State. That's what I think. Will it have implications for both the Big Ten game and the college football playoff? Yeah, probably. So I think whoever loses needs to manage the game to the point where they don't lose by much. Maybe they lose by like a point or two, or just by a field goal, right? Or maybe a one possession game, kind of like what Mystic was saying. That's what I think it comes down to. But I think I have this as a loss in my book. So number two biggest game of Ohio State season, right? For me, that is Texas, right? Texas, to be 100% honest, they have one of the top elite programs in the country, very similar to what the Buckeyes have: elite recruiting, elite NIL, one of the biggest profits. They're probably one of the most profitable teams in the SEC. Big time coaches. We have Ryan Day. They have Sarkisian. He's rebuilt that entire program and everything to be an elite talent roster chain that they continuously have year after year, right? They have the quarterback Arch Manning, who was the hottest quarterback in all of college football in the last 7 games. I'll even argue that he was, at times I would have voted for him for Heisman over Mendoza because of some of the stuff that I saw him doing. I was like, holy crap. He didn't have all of the whole complete package put together, but he was definitely on a roll. This is probably going to be an early test for Ohio State, right? Ohio State will face a national title contender on the road in the second week of college football. This is week 2. That is not enough time to slowly develop and rebuild the defense, the linebacker rotations, or the safety communication. So it's going to be really tough on the Buckeyes. They're going to have to play a really sound game. It is being played at night as well. So this is a primetime game. If I'm Ohio State, if you have an opportunity to play very conservatively and play very good defense, take advantage of that. I think that will be the keys to winning this game. But I have a feeling, because it is going to be a little bit too early in the season for the offensive line to really start developing, as well as you look at the questions that you have on defense. There's a chance that I think Texas might play a really good game against us. And they could definitely win this. Not to say that, that we don't have the talent, because I think we do. But Texas will attempt to make Ohio State more one-dimensional than they have been in previous years. The Longhorns will likely test Buckeyes' protection with movement, pressure packages, physical interior play. Ohio State cannot expect Sayin and Smith to rescue every drive, like I've said that before in some of the other matchups. The Buckeyes return considerable offensive experience, but they need to really perform at a national contending level to compete with a Texas team that's this talented, to be honest. The experience is why Ohio State should expect to compete successfully, but it's not guaranteed. Will the atmosphere primetime game in Texas be too much for them? I think it's going to come down to Jeremiah Smith, to be honest. As much as I say they shouldn't target him as being the main guy and force it to him, I think this is a game that I need Jeremiah Smith to be Jeremiah Smith. I need him to be that big bad bully against a certain team, right? I need him to step to the occasion. The defense is really where I have question marks this too early in the season. Knowing Sarkisian and his coaching style, they'll make sure their Texas team is ready for this matchup. I have this as a potential loss. There's a chance we could win it, but I could see Texas winning it by like a field goal or something, or more. What do you guys think of this game?
No. I think I like what you're saying. I think Texas learned a lot last year playing. Obviously, there's different people, right? There's going to be different faces. But I think that this Texas team learned a lot playing Ohio State last year, week 1. Excuse me. And I think if we look at, again, to your point, this defense having to come out and kind of learn the new system. Yeah, they're going to get Ball State week 1, right? Get a nice tune-up, right? But that's not necessarily a high-end team that's going to test you. I think this Texas team, and you're going into Texas, I would argue this might be one of the toughest games of your season, to be honest with you, because of how early in the season it is. It looks like they're putting it in prime time at that Texas. Like it's everything you want it to be. The atmosphere is going to be a hell of an atmosphere for a week 2 game. It's going to be a lot. This could be one of those situations I was talking about where your offense is going to have to carry your team because your defense is going through that learning curve. Now,
Yeah.
if that's the case, you're right. Jeremiah Smith, you got to step up and say, I'm that guy. This is my game. Give me the football. And I think you can see that. But again, this is a toss up for me. I can see you guys taking care of business because you guys stopped Arch last year. But I can also see Arch and this team learning and Arch really finding ways to step up and attack the defense and use his legs to extend these drives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with Jimmy. They have Wingo and Cam Coleman. You look at Ohio State's roster, right? And you see how it's built with the receivers, the running backs, and the offensive line, the defensive line talent. Texas is built the same exact way. If you really think about it, it's based off of speed.
I forgot about Cam Coleman.
Right? Cam Coleman, Wingo, that is going to be a hella matchup for Devin Sanchez and company. And the secondary, like I said, we got talent on our roster just like they do, but our talent is still replacing a lot of turnover on that defense. I think it's going to be tough. So I kind of think that this Texas game, I'm okay with Ohio State losing this game. I don't want to be in a situation where they blow the socks off of Ohio State, right? I think Ohio State needs to make sure the game is still close and competitive. But I could see this end up being a loss. Steve, what do you got to say about this game?
Well, you know how much I love Cam Coleman, and I think he is the second best receiver coming out of this 2027 draft class.
Yes.
I think this is explosive offense versus explosive offense, and whose defense is going to be able to hold it down. Whose corners are going to be able to shut down the tandem. Then it comes down to whose run game is going to control the clock. This game is going to be interesting. If Julian Sayin and Arch play like they did last year from a totality, I think Ohio State has the edge in quarterback. If Julian Sayin plays as well as he did the entire year. But if Arch is on like he was those final 7 games or whatever it was, it's going to be a rough day at the business for Ohio State.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that. But I love your optimism giving Ohio State the edge against Texas.
No, just in quarterback, right? Because the wide receiver rooms, I think, are very close. It just depends on how Arch plays, and that's why I said that.
Okay. I'm very, very confident in Julian Sayin and his abilities, but I have to be real. Bring you back to reality for a moment, right? Arch Manning is a different animal still, regardless of what happened in the last game that we played last season in week 1, right? Which should have been a primetime matchup, not a noon game, just to be fair, right? Arch Manning still has hella talents that Julian Sayin doesn't have. Arch Manning can run the ball. Arch Manning, I'll argue, has a stronger arm. What makes Julian Sayin fascinating is he's more methodical, more, the way where he places the ball for his receivers is at a very high elite level. And that shows up in his stats and his QB rating and QBR and whatnot. He had one of the highest completion ratings. And don't quote me on the number, but I know it was in the 70s. It was like high 70s for completion rate. At one point, I want to say he had a higher than 80% completion rate. It was something ridiculous. And I'll argue that he lost the Heisman trophy in that Indiana-Ohio State game, to be honest. Because if Ohio State walked away with that win, I'm willing to bet that Julian Sayin may have gotten his hands on the Heisman. Just going to point that out. That's how good he was with what he was doing. But the last 7 games, when you look at it in totality, you look at it, the throwing, the decisions making, taking the game in your own hands, the ability to run with the ball and make plays happen even when it wasn't working. Arch Manning did that. right? Arch Manning made that a big thing in the last 7 games, and I don't think anybody could touch him for that. If he finds a way to start the season like that, Ohio State's in trouble early in week 2. I still am kind of giving the edge to Texas because Texas fans, I know, are going to look at this as a revenge game from the semifinal in 2024. So there's that. You also look at playing in Texas. It's always tough to play in Texas. It's a bigger environment, bigger stadium. For me, I think it's going to be close, but I think Ohio State walks away with a loss here, and I'm okay with it. Texas being one of the top teams in the program in the preseason, they're probably ranked number 2, number 3, maybe. I forget what their ranking is off the top of my head, but I think that if we lose to that, make it respectable, win the rest of the season, we beat Indiana, we beat USC. So what? We lose to Oregon. I still think we find ourselves eventually into the college football playoff, because I know there's one more team we have to talk about. Any final thoughts before we move on to the number 1 team that Ohio State has to, pretty much the biggest game?
No, but I'm already going to argue with you about it because I know what you're about to say.
So, go ahead.
I just want to say real quick, Texas and Ohio State have a lot in common.
Yes.
From a build standpoint. That's why I led with, ultimately, I think that game is going to come down to whose defense can stop the other offense, right? That's ultimately what it's going to come down to.
Mm-hmm.
However, I can't ignore how well Ohio State played all year last year and the hiccups that Texas had. And even when we talked about Texas on that show, we had questions about Sarkisian and his ability to coach in moments, right?
That's true. That could be a deciding factor. It could be a coach's game. Will Ryan Day have the edge because he has experience, right? Is the moment too big for Sarkisian? You're absolutely right about that.
I guess the question, and I'll take this one to the chat too, is Texas and Ohio State going to be a game of the year type game?
It will definitely be interesting. I will tell you that. Something else real quick about Texas that I didn't mention, but we mentioned it in their breakdown when we talked about them. They've had massive turnover just like Ohio State did. They lost, Malik Muhammad, for example, right? Their starting corner. He's gone, right? They've lost some receivers as well as Michael Taff. Trey Moore, the defensive end? They've lost some offensive linemen that they've had. They've lost some running backs that they've had over the season. So they have turnover as well. But just like the year prior, they know how to reload just as good as Ohio State does. They have the NIL money machine figured out, just like Ohio State does. As you said, they're built very similarly. The question for me is, you're right, the defense. Can the defense stand up to hold off Texas enough for Ohio State's offense to do what it does? And then ultimately, the battle of the coaches. Will Steve Sarkisian rise to the occasion, or is Ryan Day going to hold it down with his experience? It'll be very interesting. I don't expect it to be a very conservative game like it was last season at all. I was expecting a shootout in that game. It didn't happen the way I thought. We won, but I was happy, but it wasn't what I expected. I'm kind of going in this game expecting what I expected last season, which would be a shootout. And I think that's what we're going to see in week 2, to be honest. So, but yeah, on to the number 1 game of the season for Ohio State. So let's talk about that. And if you probably haven't figured it out or don't know me, yes, it's that team up north, Michigan. Texas may be the hardest road game environment for Ohio State in this season. Oregon may be the closest roster matchup that they see at home. To be honest, Indiana may be the most fascinating story or conference story line altogether. And you have an up and coming USC, right? You may have all that going for you. You know, they have to fly all the way out to California and back before, you know, and also see Indiana away and then Oregon at home. You got to see all of that happening. But one thing is for sure, none of them are Michigan. This game remains the matchup that defines Ohio State's season, regardless of any of the other games, right? For the fan base, for the states, both Michigan and Ohio, to be honest, for both fan bases, both teams, winning this game matters more than anything else, to be honest. Ryan Day's evaluation will continue to be influenced heavily by what happens against Michigan. That pressure does not disappear because the playoff has expanded. In some ways, it becomes more intense because Ohio State may need to beat Michigan and then continue playing championship level football, right? I mentioned Texas, Oregon being your possible losses during the season. A 10-2 season would get you in to the college football playoff. A 9-3 season, I don't know. It depends on how you lost. Let's say you lose to Texas by 3 points and you lost to Oregon by 3 points, and then you lost to Michigan by 3 points as well. You're going to need some help to get into the college football playoff. Texas didn't even have that kind of help, and their season, to be honest, it could have been a lot worse than what it was. But they arguably, I thought in the last 7 games, they proved that they should have been in over some of these other teams, to be honest. So to give you an example. So the new Michigan era, why this game is important, it's Michigan. Why it's going to be interesting? Well, Michigan enters 2026 under new head coach Kyle Whittingham, creating a significant philosophical shift. Whittingham is known for physical football, strong defensive structure, demanding line of scrimmage play. So that's kind of going back to the old school Michigan, Ohio State vibes, where the trenches is where the real battle was at, right? This reminds me of like the pre-Urban Meyer era, to be honest, for people that go way back when Coach Tressel was there. That's the type of college football that I think we're going to end up seeing. When you look at it, the Wolverines retain quarterback Bryce Underwood, the former #1 overall recruit, who enters his sophomore season at 6'4", 228 pounds. Michigan's official roster confirms his status, and he was selected as one of the team's spring offensive captains alongside running back Jordan Marshall. And yes, he may have been in a hot box or in the backwoods, according to Mystic. No pun intended, but that's the truth. Underwood displayed elite potential as a freshman, but remained inconsistent. That's the issues with Underwood. Post-spring 24/7 projection described his development as Michigan's best offensive storyline and noted that he had shown all-American level flashes. That makes this matchup particularly dangerous because you don't know which version of him you're going to get. Are we going to see the version of him that we saw last season? Are we going to see the flashes of him really owning a game and running away with it like we saw previously? Those are the questions that we have. So what does the quarterback duel give us? Julian Sayin versus Bryson Underwood. This is more than a rivalry game. This is a matchup between two quarterbacks who could become major NFL prospects. Granted, for 2027, it's for Julian Sayin, and 2028, probably for Bryce Underwood. Sayin is more accomplished, polished college passer entering the season. His anticipation, ball placement, and relationship with Smith give Ohio State a clear passing game identity. Underwood provides a different challenge. His size, arm strength, his mobility allow Michigan to create explosive plays even when the original call breaks down. He's one of those things that he makes it happen on the run. He's one of those type of quarterbacks. Ohio State must make Underwood operate methodically. The Buckeyes cannot allow him to turn 3rd and 8 into first down with his legs and escape pressure for a deep completion. Michigan's objective will be the opposite. The Wolverines will try to disrupt Sayan's timing, take away Smith, and make Ohio State prove that it can win through physical rushing offense. Something similar to what they did last season to beat Michigan. So that's kind of interesting. You look at the offensive line, right? Whittingham put together a hella good offensive line at Utah. We saw half their offensive line get drafted this past draft cycle, right? He'll bring a physical mentality to a roster that already values defensive line play. Michigan will attempt to collapse the interior pocket, disrupt Ohio State's zone running concepts, force 3rd and long, and hit Sayan early. That's what their plan is. So what is Ohio State's plan? Well, don't let Michigan eliminate Smith. Move Smith in different positions along the offensive line. Let it be in the slot, the boundary, you name it. Use him in the different alignments. And then you talk about Chris Henry Jr. Chris Henry Jr. might be the factor here that give Ohio State the edge. You're talking about another dynamic wide receiver that has all the elite skills to be the number one guy, right? We talk about Jeremiah Smith being the number one wide receiver in all the nation, and arguably he is, right? But when you have a guy like Chris Henry Jr., it's almost like having a 1A and a 1B, right? That's the reality for it. So the game may reveal whether Ohio State possesses a great receiving core or merely a historical great receiver surrounded by talent. So that's what's at stake. So how does Ohio State win this game? Properly align Smith to what he does best, take advantage of the advantages, control the controllables without letting the game get ahead of you. That's what you do. Don't force something if it's not there. That was a mistake they made 2 seasons ago in the national championship run where we lost to Michigan. Yeah, outside, they could have eat all day and they just didn't do it. They kept trying to force it up the middle when it wasn't working. Right? I think Ohio State is a little bit too offensive heavy for this Michigan team. I think they will come to play physical, but I think Ohio State don't want to be shown up again by Michigan, especially after what they went over the past 5 years. And I think they will have this game circled on the calendar as they do every season. And I think they're going to be playing for everything that they have, especially playing this game at home as well. I think it's going to be a huge matchup. But Ohio State walks away with the victory. What do you guys think? I have Ohio State winning this game.
Yeah. Sorry. I totally understand where you're at when it comes to rivalry and perspective, and this being the most important, game for you. Yeah, they have a new head coach and they have some new things going on, but your team basically handled this same team pretty much with, Bryce Underwood, in the backwoods last year, 27-9. So them coming to you guys again, I think you guys handle them, take care of business. You guys are basically getting a nice Michigan warm up, ready to go for the postseason run, if you ask me.
Man, Mystic, I thought you'd have so much more to say about Coach Whittingham. He knows how to win a lot, at Utah, put together some of the best defensive teams as well as offensive lines that you've seen over there. I thought you'd have a lot more to say, to be honest. I'm very disappointed.
No, I'm not impressed with Michigan. I'm not. And until I actually see this guy come in and change the program and all the crap that we've seen in controversy and player issues of, coming and wanting to take care of business, until I see that on a week in, week out basis, I don't see Michigan as anything.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I definitely understand where you're coming from. Michigan has been riddled with scandals, cheating scandals. They just can't get out of the news if their life depended on it. I get it. I get why you would have those types of thoughts. To be honest, coming from a player like Bryce Underwood, claiming that he was the best offensive player that Michigan's ever had, saying that he was going to beat Ohio State in year one, and all the things that he's claimed, it has been very underwhelming, to be honest. I agree with you. What I guess I'm just kind of concerned with is that, kind of like what Kurt Signetti did at Indiana. Could Kyle Whittingham do something similar? They kind of have similarities in the style of their coaching. They believe in physical play, right? Physical offensive line and defensive line type play. So for me, it'll be very interesting what they do. How does the team adapt? Is this a new era in Michigan? I guess all those questions will be answered. But the reality for Ohio State fans, the Michigan game matters more than anything in the world. People ask, do you want to win a national championship or do you want to beat Michigan? A lot of the fan base says beat Michigan. That's what they want to do more than anything else in the world, right? I don't blame them. I'd rather win national championships myself, but beating Michigan for me would definitely be in the same year. I think that would be awesome. What do you think, Steve? You haven't talked yet about Michigan.
I think Michigan has the right coach. I think Michigan made the right move firing their AD, sending them and starting them in the right direction. I don't think Bryce Underwood gives a shit enough about football for it to be a concern to me. I think you guys dog walk Michigan, to be honest. Like even again, Rashad, talking to him in a space day because I asked him what he thought about the AD, being a Michigan fan, and even he thinks it's just they're in a resetting era where he doesn't expect anything from them. I'll be honest, like I get what you mean by this being an important game. Number one, to me, I don't think it matters as much. I think the Texas game matters more. I think, yeah, I don't think this Michigan game is going to be as tough as people might think it's going to be, but it's also in division and it's a big rivalry. So, emotions can run high and turn these into barn burners that they shouldn't be. I just don't trust the quarterback at Michigan to make it close.
I get what you're saying. Listen, my ranking was by importance of the game, right? You think about it. You look at it. Losing to Texas, is that really that important to Ohio State, or winning against Texas? I see a path them losing to Texas and they still get into the college football playoff, right? I saw a path of Oregon, us losing to them, and they still get into a playoff. The reason I have it ranked the way I do is how important is it for the team to win? If we win early against USC, yeah, we win. It's pretty much what we expect, right? You look at losing to, you look at games like, for example, Texas, for example. That game is really important in the sense that it sets the tone for your season. You look at Indiana, it's kind of in the middle. I'm in the middle with Indiana. I don't really know what to expect. Are we getting the national championship, Indiana? Or is Indiana take a step down? It's kind of in the middle, to be honest. I think that Oregon game is just so important because the fact that Oregon is the closest thing to what Ohio State looks like when you talk about their quality. And then your rivalry game. Your rivalry game is even big. Even for, take this for what you will, right? Caleb Downs and his brother have a YouTube show called Downs to Business, right? Down to Business. Go check it out if you haven't watched it. They just had, who was the quarterback that they had just from Auburn on there, Steve? What was the quarterback's name? Why can I not think about it?
Oh, I have no clue. I haven't watched it.
He used to play for New England.
You know what, Bynum Brown?
Not Bynum Brown, no.
Oh, you're talking about Cam Newton.
Cam
there
Newton.
you go.
They had
Cam
Newton on the show, right? And Caleb Downs, his brother, said that Cam Newton, honestly, was probably much the best product ever to come out of Georgia and whatnot. And he thought it was funny. And they got into talking about Caleb Downs being one of the few athletes or players to come out of college that played in actually the number 1 and number 2 biggest rivalry games in all of college football. And that's both the Ohio State Michigan game, and he also played in the Auburn versus Alabama game, right? And they got into a conversation about which rivalry is a bigger deal, right? And Caleb Downs didn't surprise me with his answer. It's what I expected. I think what I was more surprised on the shocked look that Cam Newton had. Essentially, he said that when it came to Michigan week, playing Michigan, people like the staff, the players, the fan base, the cities, and everybody were acting like crazy on a different level. Like, what we got to win this game, guys. We got to win. We got they, like the coaches, everybody's like yelling and screaming, saying this is the biggest game. We can't lose this. We got to beat them this year and everything. And Caleb even said, even himself, which I was kind of disappointed about, said that, I was going into this game like, what's the big deal? It's Michigan, it's not that big of a thing, thinking of it. But he realized that he learned that is the biggest rivalry, and he understood it and embraced it. And I think that's really, really important to know. So I think that's a really cool show. Definitely check out Caleb Downs' podcast. It's called Down to Business is the name of the show. So I thought that was interesting. Do you guys think that rivalry games, they test teams differently? Like, rivalry games shows a level of your team that you haven't seen yet, right? Something comes out of your team. You learn something about your team. Like, what do you guys think about that? Because, like, for me, like, I've watched lesser Michigan teams beat Ohio State. I've seen lesser Ohio State teams beat Michigan. Give you an example, I've seen lesser Auburn teams beat Alabama before. When you play a rival, you play at a different level than you do during regular seasons against non-rivalry games. So that's why it's ultimately the most important game in this ranking. I get why Mystic doesn't agree, because he highly values Indiana. I understand that. But ultimately, the Michigan game to me is really what's going to show what Ohio State is. And that's why I have this ranked as the number one game of, that can make or break their season. What are you guys' thoughts? And then we'll hit the bottom line.
No, I agree. I think that just goes back, and I think rivalry week brings out the classic term "any given Sunday."
Mm-hmm. Any given Saturday, technically, to be fair,
True.
Or Friday nights, or even Thursday. I think they play Thursday college football sometimes. So, very interesting. What do you got, Steve? What do you think of what I said?
Absolutely. Again, that's why I said, like, I understand why you're going at it from the idea of rivalry game. Like, it makes a difference. It's always going to make a difference. I just think sometimes the better team, even in a rivalry, though every once in a while the worst team can get a win off, the better team generally takes the win. Unfortunately, as Dolphin fans, we understand this, as Buffalo's been whooping our ass in this rivalry over and over, but we've gotten two on them, right? That it can happen. I just don't think Michigan is quite in the place to do that right now, with everything going on over there and them trying to figure themselves out.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Everybody hit the like button. It's bottom line. Ultimately, if you look at the Ohio State season, it's going to be a gauntlet of a season. It's no cakewalk. Either which way you look at it, there's a possible 10-2 path or even a 9-3 path. The question is, will a 9-3 path get you into the college football playoff? Is it enough, right? Does Ohio State have enough offense and defense to survive the Big Ten and this gauntlet of three of 3 or 4 matches that honestly are going to be the toughest all season long. What do you guys think? Put it in the comments below after, at the bottom of this show, or put it in the chat. What do you guys think? Do you think Ohio State will finish 10-2, 9-3? What are your guys' projections? Very interested. Also, quick question to the chat. Put in the chat also, what player, what future star, maybe they're not a star yet, maybe they're coming, maybe the next year is going to be the year that they're going to be the starter. What future star would you like me to break down in a future segment called 4th and Future? So that is something I'm working on. The first episode is going to be about Tavian St. Clair. I'm going to reintroduce everyone to who he is and why he can be a future star. Everybody hit the like button. Mystic, what do you got for bottom line?
I'm so glad you asked. So, I have this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing to say. I do think there's a real chance Ohio State has, a 10, 11 win season, right? And, we're talking about all these teams that, everyone expects is going to be a good game and that could potentially, knock off Ohio State this year. But, we didn't really talk about one team in particular. And I'm going to have my moment to tell you why. The last time the Ohio State Buckeyes went into Iowa City, November 4th, 2017, when they were the number 3 team in the country and somehow got absolutely demolished 55-24. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying any given Sunday, because also in the same sense, wonderful Iowa City has earned a legendary reputation over the years as a place where top 5 teams go to die. If you know, you know. And I think if you're not paying attention and watching Ohio State going into Iowa on October 10th, I think you're missing out.
Yeah, from the rumors I have it, we may actually have exclusive feed from that game. Just gonna.
Oh no, we're gonna have exclusive feed, folks. Well, this Ohio State podcaster himself and this farewell Iowa fan, we'll be at the game, folks. We'll be there.
Yeah, we might even have a live at the tailgate session, so we will definitely see. Listen, I understand where you're coming from, right? I get it. You have Iowa as a game that Ohio State can't afford to lose. You're absolutely right. But looking at the season as a totality, the games I mentioned are the top 5 that, whichever way you look at it, they have to somehow come away with, unscathed, right? I think Ohio State comes into Iowa. I think it's going to be hard fought defense because that's what Iowa's known for. But I think the offense is just going to be too much. There's too many variables. You got Bo Jackson, you got Legend Bay, you have Isaiah West, who I forgot to mention earlier. And you have guys like Chris Henry Jr., Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Innis, and many, many more players like Devin McEwen, Brock Boyd, Jaquadrin Guilford, for example, Kyle Parker, all of these guys, right? All these guys can make stuff happen. I think it's going to be too much. But I do expect you guys to play strong defense. And
you want me to name some of the names for you on that 2017 team?
Hey, go ahead. That was 2017. I'm just going to point that out.
The starter? Well, that's just the last time you guys came to Iowa City. I don't know why you only come to Iowa City once every almost 10 years. I don't understand it.
I don't understand it either, to be honest.
I thought that was crazy. I even triple checked that.
Actually, I think the reason, just before you continue on, because I'm going to hear what you have to say, but I think part of the reason was back in 2017, I think the Big Ten was still operating under the 2 divisions that they used to have the Big Ten split. Since the Big Ten has expanded and stuff, I think they have it a certain rotation where we only go teams every so many years. I think that's how it works now. But go ahead.
That would make sense. Okay, so JT Barrett was your starting quarterback with Dwayne Haskins, obviously, as the backup. Joe Burrow sitting there, hilarious. J.K. Dobbins, Terry McLaurin, Let's see. We'll just go down to the defense. Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Sam Hubbard, Jerome Baker, Denzel Ward, Jeffrey Okuda when he was good. Oh, yeah, all sorts of names all over it. It's just that was a team that wasn't supposed to lose and they lost. That's why I just had to bring it up. It's just I think it's gonna be one of those games, like not necessarily this game, right? I just wanted to bring it up as a fact of like it's always the game that you never see coming when you see these, top teams lose. And it could
Mhm.
potentially very well be one of the games we didn't even talk about that catches Ohio State off guard. That was the point of me wanting to bring this up because that 27 team had a hell of a roster and somehow decided to fall on their face that day and absolutely get blown out. It's still wild to me that I can go back and you can bring that up and you're like, wow, Ohio State did what? It's crazy.
So looking back at that game, because it was a crazy game, I believe that's a game that JT Barrett had 3 touchdowns followed by 4 interceptions, right? And then you look at Nate Stanley, who was the quarterback at that point. Didn't he have something like stupid, like 5 touchdowns?
Yes, yeah, that 5 touchdown day.
Freaking ridiculous. Look, I get what you're saying. I completely understand it. It can happen for whatever reason, but I will give Iowa an honorable mention, to be honest. I like Iowa. I like what they're doing. They have hella good team. No discredit to what they do. I just don't think they have the offense that Ohio State does, and that's their problem, right? I think they have the defense to compete with a lot of these teams. That's why you saw them, holding USC at bay, and that I would call it almost like a shootout type of game in USC last year, right? You look at Iowa going up against some of the SEC talent. That's why they're able to get away with wins or even or hold bigger teams at bay because of their defense. It's what they're known for. They also know how to utilize tight ends, so it makes you playing defense that much more harder. I'll give you credit where credit's due. I just don't think they have the elite quarterback yet. They don't have the elite receiver yet. Now they do have some talent though coming in. I get you. They just don't have it yet. But I do like your coach too. Your coach is one of the most consistent coaches in the Big Ten or even in the country, to be honest. So, and what he's done.
Absolutely. No, Kirk Ferentz actually, I mean, as of right now, he's like the winningest coach in Big Ten history just because he's always been there. But obviously that'll change one day. But it's just really cool that he's been there for so long and just the standard he puts. But yeah, it should be a really good game. Ultimately, I expect Ohio State to win it, right? But you just never know what that Saturday. And here's the thing too. And the time of the game hasn't been announced yet. I'm hoping for our sake we get a primetime game. That would be even better. We get a nice blackout at night. Oh.
You said the time has not been announced yet?
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing everywhere. I see to be determined is what I was seeing.
Let me take a look here real quick. Just let me see. Yeah, you're right. It does say TBD. The only game that they have announced officially, from what I can see, is the Ball State, Texas, and the Kent State in the Illinois. No Illinois game, just the Kent State game and Texas game. So very interesting. That would be cool having a night game though. So definitely it would be cool, especially in October. How's the weather in Iowa in October? Is it cold?
Dude, no, we could get some really good, like 50, 60 degree night football, and that would be phenomenal, dude.
Ooh, is it a night to bring my hoodie? Is it that type of night?
It could be.
Oh shit, I should bring my hoodie then. Okay. All right, I'll bring it. All right. Everyone hit the like button, subscribe if you're brand new. Check out Thursday night's episode. It was a banger that we had. What team did we break down? Please remind me. No, I'm just kidding. Definitely check out our Thursday night episode. I think it's going to be a banger for you guys to watch. Every Thursday on the 4thand10U, we put out a exclusive episode that you can only find there. So come to @4thand10U, subscribe if you're brand new. Right now, we're at 1 subscriber away from hitting 100 subscribers to have our first giveaway. 1 subscriber away. So I just need 1 more, and then we can have our first giveaway. Some lucky follower, which we've kept track of, will be getting a exclusive brought to you by this guy, Magic Mike. Check out Magic Mike's cards.
Magic Mike's card! Magic Mike's card! Flip that back, let's go! Hands in the air, we're running this show! Sharp cut, shrink wrap, snap, name on the mat, we don't hold back. Scoreboard, clock runs.
Check out Magic Mike's cards for all of your sports card memorabilia. You can check them out on Whatnot or even on Magic Mike's cards on TikTok. So definitely check him out. It's out great deals. Reach out to him if you're looking for something specific. He's the guy that got me the Jeremiah Smith autograph card that I'm never letting go. Yeah, definitely check him out. Awesome time, especially when he does his breaks. Really cool cards that you get and whatnot. But yeah, we're breaking down Georgia on Thursday. We've already pre-recorded the episode. We're going to talk about Georgia. Are they back at the top of the SEC or not? What do we need to see happen? We're going to give out our breakdown and projections. Stay tuned for the 4th and future episode. That will be a pre-record that I will go ahead and release here on the 4th and 10 channel. Steve, what do you got to close down our show? Got anything?
Just like, subscribe. If you want to argue with us, hit the chat. If you just want to converse, hit the chat. We want all the feedback we can get. You can tell me how I know nothing about Ohio State. You can tell Mystic how Indiana will never be a dynasty. I hope everybody enjoys. Hit the like, subscribe, share. Let's keep it going forward.
Thank you, Steve. Listen, if you guys want to fight or tell Steve how bad of a thoughts he has on his opinions on certain teams, you can reach him at Dolphin Knight 13 anytime. Go reach out to him and complain. But in the comments, give some feedback. We want to know what teams you guys want us to talk about. What topics do you guys want us to cover? And do you think that Michigan is the most important game or most difficult game for Ohio State this coming up season? Or is it another game? Or what do you guys think about my ranking? Tell me what you guys think. Everybody hit the like button. We'll see you in the next one.